Good morning. I call this regular meeting of the Kentucky Board of Education to order. We welcome our members, those in the audience, and all those viewing the meeting remotely. A few reminders: please silence or turn off other electronic devices that may cause disruption to your sound feed. To members attending virtually, please ensure your video is streaming and that you can be seen throughout the duration of the meeting. I'll now ask Dr. Jones to please call the roll.
Holly Bloodworth.
Holly Bloodworth here.
Harold McKinney.
Harold McKinney's here.
Justin Pate.
Present.
Julie Pyle.
Julie Pyle, present.
Randy Poe.
Present virtually.
Sharon Robinson.
Present.
Steve Trimble.
Here.
Lou Young.
Here.
Harper Blake.
Here.
Alfonso de Torres Nunez.
Here.
Secretary Jamie Link.
Jamie Link is present virtually.
President Aaron Thompson. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Well, let's jump right in and get to the good news. I'm going to call on Steve, if you will, to talk to us about the 2026 STLP state championships, which were wildly attended and and beautifully done. Lots to celebrate.
I think that's growing more and more every year. But more than 20,000 people attended the 2026 Student Technology Leadership Program State Championship at Rupp Arena in Lexington on April the 24th. Run by the Kentucky Department of Education's Office of Education Technology, STLP uses project-based learning, technology utilization, and digital content creation to empower student achievement. STLP offers schools a practical way to bring the Kentucky Board of Education's United We Learn vision to life. Students create vibrant learning experiences by developing technology-rich projects connected to issues they care about. They build community connections by working with classmates, educators, families, local partners, and authentic audiences. They encourage innovation by testing ideas, using feedback, improving their work, and presenting original solutions. STLP also supports the Kentucky academic standards for technology, computer science, and library media by giving students opportunities to demonstrate digital citizenship, computational thinking, creative communication, information fluency, and responsible technology using their real-world projects. For districts, STLP also provides a strong way to highlight and demonstrate many of the skills commonly found in local portraits of a learner. Congratulations to the 4 STLP project state champions. From 631 K-12 projects, judges narrowed down the champions to the following teams. In grades K-5, it's the Vision Best STLP Project Kentucky. The project was called Bloom News Kids, and that was from Bloom Elementary School in Jefferson County. Grades 6 through 8, the Vision's Best STLP Project in Kentucky. The project was Flood Guard by James D. Adams Middle School in Floyd County. In grades 9 through 12, the Vision's Best STLP Project in Kentucky. The project was Fisher Eminence High School. And Dave Siegler Award for the Best Technical STLP Project, Breaking Point Initiative by Morgan County High School. So being able to be champions out of 631 schools is outstanding, or 631 projects was an outstanding job by those schools. So congratulations to everybody that was involved in that.
Alfonso, his chest is bursting with pride, and I have met these young students. They are amazing.
And if I may, not only those are my students, we also have
Oh,
a
wow.
Bloom parent in here. Hi, Miss Pierce. How you doing?
Congratulations.
I'm so excited.
One of the things I love so much about STLP, we have urban schools, we have mountain schools, we have little schools, and it's everybody has access to it. Do you guys have STLP program in Marion County High? Excellent.
We met there, 2 or 3 years ago, maybe, and
Yeah, we
had a
did.
meeting there
We
during the
did.
STPL
Yeah, it was
conference.
like a huge
Huge bunch of people.
WWF.
I mean, there are kids everywhere, in the hallways, they're working. It's just really amazing.
I have to admit, the sumo bots are probably my favorite. That might be my favorite, but they have everything from robotics to, it's amazing everything that they do. So, 3 levels of competition. Everywhere you turn, there's a student, and it's just a day of pride. And everybody wants to stop and tell you about your project, and it's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's a good environment. Randy, you're with us virtually, but tell us about You Belong.
Still muted, Dr. Poe.
Sorry there.
No,
Yeah, following along on that STLP, You Belong Attendance Matter video poster contest. The 2026 STLP State Championship was the first to feature You Belong. Attendance Matters video and poster contest. The contest invited K-12 public school students across the Commonwealth to create a short commercial or digital poster that highlights the beginnings, connections, and why showing up to school matters. This really goes along with what we were talking about yesterday on chronic absenteeism. The poster contest winners were elementary school, Phelps Elementary School in Pike County. In the middle school division, it was Harris County Middle School. High school was Lawrence County High School. Proud smile of someone in our board seats there.
Yep.
Elementary, in the video contest, elementary school, Cold High Elementary in Laurel County. Middle school, North Middle School in Henderson County. High school was Pineville High School and Pineville Independent. The works of the winners will be shared in the future KBE statewide social media campaigns. More details about chronic absenteeism and the You Belong Attendance Matters campaign can be found on KBE's Attendance Matters website. Congratulations to these students. Once again, another great example of thriving education going on in our schools across there. And my background is representing those mountain schools that we talked about there today. So great work on our STPL winners.
Thank you, Randy. I'll call on Lou next
Sure.
to help us celebrate one of our colleagues.
Yeah, from kids to grown-ups on this one, I am happy to recognize Associate Commissioner of KD's Office of Special Education and Early Learning, Greta Hilton, and I don't see her in the audience today. She was here yesterday. She was honored with the Glenn I. Latham Annual Excellence Award by Technical Assistance for Excellence in Special Education. Our OCL team has been racking up a lot of accolades lately, and this one for Greta in particular. The Glenn I. Latham Award recognizes state leaders who demonstrate sustained and effective leadership and who exemplify the attributes of Latham, including knowledge, wisdom, and a deep commitment to improving outcomes for children with youth with disabilities. There's a nice photo op right there. Before coming to KDE, Greta was a special ed teacher in several different counties in Kentucky. She came to the department in 2010 as a consultant in exceptional children in OCL. And she has also served as an Individuals with Disabilities Education Act formal complaint investigator. How about that gig? Executive staff advisor, policy advisor, division director, and now associate commissioner. So, Commissioner, if you would pass along our hearty congratulations to Associate Commissioner Hilton.
Holly,
Yes, well,
please tell us about our Principal of the Year.
yes, I'm excited to say that High School Principal of the Year is from my part of the world, over in Western Kentucky. Dietrich Kinney entered his 3rd year as principal of Paducah Tillman High School by being recognized as the 2026 Kentucky High School Principal of the Year by the National Association of Secondary School Principals. Kinney started his career in 2008 teaching health and physical education at Fulton County High School. He moved to Todd County Central High School in 2016 to serve as assistant principal, then transitioned to serve as principal for 3 years. Kinney joined Paducah Tillman High School as assistant principal and athletic director in 2021 before becoming principal in 2023. Kinney said he makes sure to make himself visible and approachable, taking the time to connect with students and create a climate where open communication isn't just encouraged, it's expected. So congratulations to Mr. Kinney and Paducah Independent.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. Justin?
Yes, ma'am. So we heard a little bit about this yesterday, but certainly worth celebrating that a new study shows letters training improves student reading outcomes. A new analysis of the Kentucky Reading Academy shows the language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling, or letters training, is making a difference. Drawing on data from 574 elementary schools across 135 districts, the study by the Kentucky Reading Research Center found that schools with more letters-trained teachers experienced stronger growth in the share of students reaching the proficient level and a greater reduction of the numbers of students at the novice level on the Kentucky Summative Assessment. Some key takeaways of the new study is stronger proficiency rates for schools with higher percentages of letters-trained teachers, faster growth in high implementation schools, with schools above the average level of letters participation seeing almost a 4.3% increase in proficient readers, compared to only 2.9% in schools below the average. It was shown to be consistent with evidence across models. Statistical analysis confirmed by a significant positive effect of letters training on proficiency outcomes, and shows declines in lower performing schools. The number of schools with more trained teachers experienced larger decreases in novice readers. It also demonstrated to have a limited administrator effect. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pate. Now, this is, as we discussed yesterday, the Letters Initiative, the Literacy Initiative, is a process of learning for us as well. And so these interim research reports are just critical to our getting the best impact out of this whole effort. So we'll be digging into that, and there'll be further discussion on that at subsequent meetings, you can betcha. At this point, we will, as for board policy, we'll turn to board member sharing. This would give the board members an opportunity to bring forth issues of interest that may not be included on the agenda in a formal way, but perhaps might be at some subsequent meeting. It gives us an opportunity to raise issues that are provoked by conversation, your observations, and we have some that we have asked to report because of their away from the table activities. And Justin, I'm going to come back to you. The High School Transformation Working Group held its last meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Yesterday, and I think there's some momentum, so this effort may not be over for us. Am I right?
It should not be over. No, ma'am, that's a fact. No, just as a reminder, this was an invitation from the National Association of State Boards of Education to participate in what turned out to be a 5-state project to help transform and create more engaging experiences for all high school students. We formed a very cross-functional team with various constituencies and stakeholders involved in this work group. Dr. Young, Dr. Fletcher, and I represented our board and the department, ultimately coming up with what we felt were some recommendations for the sharing of best practices, for innovation and engagement, some barriers that would potentially need to be removed to this innovation and engagement, ultimately feeding through into some type of policy recommendations that maybe all of our various groups should consider in order to create a platform for more innovation and engagement in the high schools. At this point, this work group's work has concluded, but there is both an opportunity to participate in kind of what I'm calling a round two of another NASB project on this. Kentucky will be invited to apply, should we choose, for this second round. But also, just in our internal efforts as a state to get better, we feel that it's time to hand this work off to the Kentucky United We Learn Council as the group of practitioners and community members, students that would be, that we need to get some additional feedback in this process. So now that it's time to truly vet what this work group has done, we think it's time to hand it off to the Cool Council to potentially research some more ways to make these policy recommendations and what they actually are. So I would like to move, Madam Chair, if you would not mind, that the Kentucky Board of Education invite the Cool Council to consider researching and developing these policy recommendations related to high school transformation.
Thank you, Dr. Pate. There is a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
Julie seconds. Let's open this up for just a modest amount of debate, discussion. This is an important opportunity to, again, we've got a little movement here, so let's see where we can find momentum.
But if I may, Madam Chair,
Questions, yes.
one omission.
Speak to you.
The work group did formally vote to move this work forward to the Cool Council. So the work group fully supports the last, 12 months of work that we have done. They are in full support of moving this forward to the Cool Council.
Well, we have an opportunity to ask the Cool Council how to take this up. Further comment?
I have a question. How many teachers and students do we currently have in the Kentucky United We Learn Council?
Karen doesn't know for sure off the top of her head.
Sorry.
Several of
I would
both
say
of those
quite a
groups.
few.
It's a group of 60 plus.
Okay.
And there are students and sitting classroom teachers, as well as community members, administrators, and we can get you those numbers.
Okay.
It may have, are they listed on the website?
We have, the membership is out on the website. We have well over 70 members. At least half of them are teachers and probably close to 15 students at this point.
Oh, nice.
That's an estimate off the top of my head.
Yep.
Well, and I think as we ask the Cool Council to consider this, we can also make them aware that there are resources at hand in the high school transformation work group members who have developed some expertise, and the work group represents colleagues across government and in every facet, from the community, from business, and so we have an asset to ask them to offer as well. So any further comment?
I agree completely, Dr. Robinson. I would just add that, first, let me just say thank you to Dr. Pate. He managed that pretty big task so efficiently, and you just brought real clarity and focus to the way we approach
Today she's calling me
work.
efficient.
So-
Yesterday she was calling me mean.
I get to be good cop in those meetings, and he has to play bad cop, but he's a natural.
Left-handed compliment right
Really, there you go. But really, you did such a good job kind of coalescing the conversations around the big ideas. And so to Dr. Robinson's point, is we pulled together the kind of yeast, the catalyst for the conversation to be picked up by the Cool Council. And we did broach this with them in January. They're very open to this message. I think Dr. Pate's going to be able to join them again at their next convening in July. And in order to kind of hand this off as the next frontier for our vision work as the state board. So really much appreciated. Thank you.
So this is just the kind of churn that we love to see. It's like a lot of effort, dedication, and effort bringing about real productive steps in a direction that help us frame our thinking in a manner that supports today's issues that may be barriers to student success. And we are looking at it from so many different facets. I'm very proud of this board. Now we are simply, I think we're asking the board to endorse and support this further effort. So I'm going to call the question.
Can I have a, I have a question though.
Okay,
I'm
I see
not
your
opposed
hand
to-
now.
Yeah, it's hard to see
Little
the hand.
It's little tiny.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have any problem with the motion and that going through. I just, for clarification, how does this come into play with our L3 lab schools that we're doing and so forth? Because it seems like we created that group to be a transformation group. Now we're going to have a different group study. What ties do we have with the L3, the laboratory schools that we're doing that's supposed to be our transformational groups go into play on this? Help me out.
I think
Align it for
this
me.
is an overarching effort. I don't think there's no specific recommendations as to every school should do innovation this way. What we really boiled this down to was, what are the best practices that we can try to share among like resourced, like districts, and what barriers are existing? I mean, those L3 schools still have barriers that exist to them, expanding what they're doing. So, I think this is more of a broad stroke initiative of how do we support and how do we share and how do we remove those barriers. So everyone has a chance to, I think, give that input, and where those, to me, what the L3s are going to be best suited for is the districts that want to be like L3s. If we create these resource guides and these policies that remove barriers, it's going to allow more of those like-minded, like-resourced districts to become that. So I don't see it as these are very specific, every district should be doing this kind of recommendations that we're moving forward. It's how do we take what everybody's wanting to do or doing and allow them to be better?
Yeah, and I agree with Dr.
Correct.
Pate, but one of the things, Randy, too, to think about, we don't know exactly how Cool will unfold the idea of it all, but I would imagine there's an L3-like iteration coming. Schools of innovation is the notion under the new law, instead of districts of innovation like it used to be. So L3s might become this coalition of high schools in a region or across the state that are willing to lock arms and think about high school transformation together. That was one of the recommendations that came out of the meeting yesterday, for example. And my guess is, Karen's in the audience, but my guess is that L3s will continue at the local accountability focus moving forward, especially if we snag another CGSA grant. But this is kind of looking around the corner, since the number one goal of Cool was to get to what became House Bill 257, and we notched that one in our belt, although there's still plenty of work to be done. I think they'll probably move forward with both of those, Randy. So local accountability and what that looks like in practice and what can we learn from it, and then with a lasered emphasis on high schools as incubators of what Cool is all about.
We continue to utilize our L3 groups as part of the local accountability models. We've selected districts that we've done videos with that have been part of the L3 process for their local accountability. We have also selected districts that have not been a part of the L3 to highlight what they're doing with local accountability. So we still utilize the L3 network as examples. And we, again, just like Dr. Pate said earlier, we try to network those groups together to say, these are some examples that may help you as we move forward. So we do point districts when they talk to us. We do have the local accountability toolkit and guidebook, or guidebook and toolkit, but we also try to give district examples so they can reach out. Fleming County, Shelby County, and others we try to point to.
Right. I agree. And I that's why I wanted to bring this up. I think it's somewhere in the circular pattern here. We have to have L3 be providing some input to the Cool Council so that we're not going in separate directions, because to me, the L3s are the implementation. But when we are implementing, we should be getting feedback from them. The Cool Council should be calling them in and getting feedback. But I just think that there's got to be some circular flow here.
Yeah.
So that we're not having two separate groups, because I really think that our L3 schools have really truly been our innovators before we ever started this work. Now we're creating documents for support, but if we're not getting input from them that's been doing the work, then we're losing out.
Yeah,
I just
feedback
want to make sure the
loops.
school council, when we send it to them, are getting feedback, because you as a board are getting feedback from L3 now.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure what that feedback is to them.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that they're not left out of the picture, because they've been really tremendous in changing and transforming high schools before we ever started this work.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to put the question. All in favor of our endorsing the passing of the baton, if you will, or first linking and leveraging this engagement of the high school transformation with the Cool Council, under the auspices of the Cool Council, please say aye.
Aye. And
Any
Madam Chair,
opposed?
oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah, any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Yes.
One more glaring omission. That's what I do. If not for Glyptis and Jones, Dr. Jones, we would not have gotten anywhere close to where we gotten. So one more chance to recognize Dr. Jones for what she has done in this.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're really blessed to have the support of an amazing staff here at KBE. Julie, I'm going to go to you and ask for a report on the whole child, whole community, whole school, whole community, whole child subcommittee. And also, please give us a comment or two from your experience participating in the show what you know activities that are kind of going on in schools.
Yes. So the whole school, whole community, whole child committee met on Tuesday. We received an update regarding the activities in Fayette County. That's the focus district. We're actually going into our fourth year of a 4-year grant. The Kentucky SHAPE Conference is June 24th, 25th. And a special note for teachers who need PD, it's only $25, so it's some really cheap PD. And they're going to have tracks around special education and incorporating special education with the physical aspects of physical education. They're planning a statewide conference in summer of '27. We received a couple of legislative updates, one on House Bill 280, which modernized some language with medications, which made it more generic and long-term language, and Senate Bill 18, which is around distributing information for type 1 diabetes and creating more awareness of that. We received data on this, the summer food service programs. In 2019, there were 3.2 million meals distributed in the summer. In 2025, there was 11 million meals. Part of that increase is the federal program now allowed non-congregate meal distribution. So it used to be the students would have to come to school and eat the meals at school, which in rural areas created some distance barriers. Well, now they can come and pick up multiple days' worth of meals and take them back home. So that allowed for an increase in meal distributions. There's a fresh produce campaign that's going to be June 21st through 27th, and the theme is very cute. Lettuce squash hunger. So very cute. We had a thorough review of mental health resources. Again, some discussion around chronic absenteeism. The rate in 2022 is 27%. 2025, it dropped to 25%, so that's good news. And we talked about the STLP and the You Belong program. Then on a different note, so this year I had the pleasure of participating in Defenses of Learning at the 5th grade, 8th grade, and 12th grade level.
Nice.
So I got to see the continuation or the distinction. This was the first year that I was able to do 5th grade, and it was the second year for this school. And the kids were so excited to share their learning. I liked the setup that this school did because it was a one-on-one. It wasn't like a panel type thing. And we were in the cafeteria, and the kids were set up with their Chromebooks. And every time they were empty, didn't have somebody reviewing and talking with them, they were standing up looking to see who they could get to come talk to them so they could share their learning. They were great at answering questions. I'm really looking forward to seeing these kids progress at each age level and seeing the advancement in the defenses of learning, because the 8th grade ones were just as good as the 5th graders, and the 12th graders are getting there. The one suggestion I make to all the schools is have the students pick a peer reviewer from a year below and have them sit in on the defensive learnings, because what we're finding is the kids get a lot of anxiety, and they're really not, they shouldn't be anxious about this. They're sharing their joy of learning. But the schools that have done that have found a decrease in that anxiety going into the defensive learning. So that's something I share with all the schools that I go to.
Thank you, Julie. I mean, once again, I mean, we're continuing to learn how to perfect this process of defensive
Vibrant
learning.
learning.
Well, and that's the thing. When you attend these defenses of learning, you realize how much work the teachers are putting into creating the vibrant learning experiences so the kids can share about their character, the portrait of learner pieces that they're having to demonstrate. And if the teachers weren't doing those vibrant learning experiences, the kids wouldn't have those things to share as their artifacts.
That's truly worth celebrating. Well, Lou and I and the commissioner were celebrating the graduates from the Kentucky School for the Blind and the Kentucky School for the Deaf. Lou, talk about
I'll be very brief,
KSD.
except to say that the commissioner and I really, really enjoyed another graduation ceremony at KSD. I think it was May 21st. There were 6 KSD graduates, most of whom had academic honors in their regalia for the graduation ceremony. It was an outstanding event, and kudos to interim principal Dr. Phoenicia Jones and the entire team at KSD. The teachers march in. It would make you very proud, Mr. McKinney, to see the support from the community and the families that were there. An excellent graduation ceremony, so thanks for the opportunity. Reminds me of why we do what we do is what Dr. Fletcher and I talked about afterwards.
Well, and we had a similar experience at KSB. There were 4 graduates. And as I was watching this ceremony and watching these students show what they know in so many different ways, including their musical talent, I just kept thinking, boy, the portrait of a learner is just being blown away by the performance of these students in their celebration. And to see the support from their families, several of these students were residential students, and the extent to which they had experiences that took them into the community with work study, and it was just so gratifying. And everybody's got a future plan, and to have these students finish high school with a sense of real determination, joy, and confidence about facing the future was my blessing. And we teased the commissioner about, kind of stepping up to the frog dissection and the bowling. He has yet to make the bowling team at KSB. But he's trying. He's trying. So thank you for the honor of representing you and offering the opportunity to offer greetings to that school community writ large, the families, the students. There are lots of people who care, and we benefit mightily, as we learned yesterday, in ways that we don't really think about. That's a school, right? But it is an asset to the entire state when it comes to services for students who have visual disabilities. So, I mean, I can't say enough. I can't say enough.
And to add, first of all, the team that had me on their bowling group had to carry the commissioner. It was not going very well. So but one young lady said, "It's okay, Dr. Fletcher, we will help you." So I yes, ma'am. So that's how bad it was. They realized that the commissioner needed help. But it was great. They would not let me put up the bumpers either. So yes, they do. It's amazing.
It's like they see it and they do it.
The thing that has taken me as commissioner when I go to each of those schools is the sense of family and community amongst the kids. You have kids that are stepping up to be big brothers, big sisters for the others, and the younger ones are supporting the older ones. There's no bigger cheerleader in those buildings than the kids are for each other. It's absolutely amazing, and it's fun to watch. But at graduation, it's such a special ceremony to see parents that just well up with such pride, as all parents do, and then the support. And they talk about the hardships they had to face to get to that point. And then the students to be proud of what they've done and to talk about their vibrant learning, to talk about the experiences that they have. As Lou said, this is why we do what we do. Mm-hmm. It's special. It really is. A lot of fun.
Lou, you were going to bring us up to date on some the health insurance literacy project.
Yes, and I did want to add, I failed to mention that KSD and KSB, many thanks to all of the adults who wrap around those schools, including alumni associations, fundraising arms, even national associations that invest in those schools. It's always delightful at graduation to see all of those adult supporters who are there year over year to support their schools. Quickly on this note, I had an email, as I often get to my state board email, from a student whom I had met at a panel we served on back in the winter, Ismail Khan, from Fayette County, and two of his buddies, Lucas and Jason. And they reached out, and these emails just delight me to no end, and said, "Hey, Dr. Young, we have an idea we wanted to talk to you about. Do you have time for a Google Hangout?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, that'd be great." I love that. I love it so much that they will reach out and just ask, and happy to say yes whenever I can. And so their idea was around, Harper, this may resonate with you or not, but they've gotten a huge burden on their hearts about the lack of healthcare literacy on the part of young adults, that it's such a complex system. So think back a couple of decades when we started worrying about how much financial literacy was lost on these kids today, not understanding mortgages and credit card interest and all of the things that can, really tank their young lives. So this is parallel in that they're worried, Secretary Link, about what kids don't know about being insured medically and how to take care of their own business when it comes to health insurance, and what their rights are, and what opportunities the state provides, what opportunities they must provide for themselves, how that whole thing works. So not unusual, these kids had prepared kind of a prospectus for me about what this might entail. And at first I was a little worried that they might be saying we need to add another graduation requirement, but they were very astute, knowing that we can't just keep stacking requirements on these kids or we'll never graduate them. There's just not enough time in a school year. But instead, to think about how we can start threading these in, I referred them to Kentucky SHAPE. That's the Health and PE Teachers Association in the state. So I gave them some contact information there, hoping that that might be a set of allies that would help them move forward. Basically, they were only asking me for feedback. So I just endorsed the notion of it all and told them I would share with you all specifically today. So I hope they'll get the shout out from the video, but very much appreciated their work. I think all three of them go to Dunbar High School in Lexington, but I won't swear to that. We were talking so much about the meatiness of it, we didn't even get to socialize at all. And then quickly, the other thing I want to mention in tandem with Dr. Pate's report is that Ryan Saunders from LPI, that's the Learning Policy Institute, affiliated with Stanford University, Linda Darling Hammond's group, and they have reached out to Kentucky for us to work with them on a national high school transformation project, very in lockstep with the NASB work. And so they have invited any school board, state board member who wants to participate in more around high school transformation to join us in that work. And so if you are interested, let me know and I'll send you'll be in, these are all virtual meetings. I think they intend to have 4, but if anybody's interested in jumping into this high school transformation game, let me know and we'll include you in that learning agenda as well.
Thanks so much. I know there's more to share, but I am going to move us forward because our colleague, Chair Amber Snell from the EPSB, is waiting to bring our report. Hi, Amber. Good to see you.
Hi, guys.
Thank you for being patient with us, and thanks for joining. Last fall, the KBE and the EPSB approved the creation of special committees to gather insights from Kentucky education stakeholders on what drives educator retention, why mid-career teachers leave, and how vibrant classroom learning environments, especially in literacy and numeracy, influence teacher satisfaction and career persistence. With the support and facilitation of the KDE Office of Educator Licensure and Effectiveness, the research practice collaboration has developed 2 recommendations to share with both KBE and EPSB. A review of scholarly literature and Kentucky-specific data indicate that working conditions, leadership support, access to high-quality embedded professional learning, and career advancement opportunities are some of the primary drivers of teacher retention. Establishing a coherent, career-long system of support can strengthen educator effectiveness and improve long-term workforce stability in the Commonwealth. With that rationale in mind, I invite Chair Snell to discuss the Research Practice Collaborative's first recommendation in greater detail.
Thank you so much, Chair Robinson. I think there's a slide deck. I don't know if I
Yes,
need to be
it's-
sharing that or some. Perfect.
It's up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So recommendation 1 is to develop a continuum of growth and support for educators from pre-service to retirement. It is establishing a statewide system that supports educators at every career stage, integrating mentoring, professional learning, coaching, communities of practice, teacher leadership, and allowing educators to grow, lead, and remain connected to the classroom. This recommendation is actually very personal to both me and my vice chair, CJ Fryer. We are both option 6 candidates or teachers who have come to the classroom through the alternative pathway system. And we both absolutely love being in the classroom. We don't really want to move into administration to continue to work in our leadership roles. And so for me, this recommendation kind of aligns with that idea of that we are more than just a teacher, and that so many of our other professionals in the education field are more than just a teacher. So some of the recommendations that they are looking at are ways to relook at some of the existing endorsements offered by EPSB, to look to see if there's a different credentialing system that we can use. And here are listed are some of the possible next steps. Allowing that, just like we try to create individualized learning plans for our students, meeting our students where they are and helping them grow to be the potential that we know that they can be, looking to do the same thing for our educators and those that are leading those classrooms. Providing leadership opportunities that don't just align with administration. Building ways that teachers can coach, can provide opportunities at the state level, such as what we are able to do through EPSB. Lots of different ways. And then the professional development opportunities that align with that. And so this looking at different ways that other states are able to do this, not only just providing the name recognition and the accolades for, yes, you've reached an additional level of leadership, but also the compensation that comes along with that. There is continually a fight for educators to be compensated accordingly with the work that they continue to do inside and outside of the classroom. And many times they feel like the only opportunity to achieve that compensation is to move into those administrative roles. So looking for ways to identify leaders within the classroom and keep those amazing leaders in the classroom and compensate them accordingly. That on the screen, it kind of talks about the possible next steps, but I think that probably, I know you all have a full agenda. That is probably a really good snapshot of the recommendation one. I will say that, like Chair Robinson mentioned, we started this collaborative, kicking it off, I think, in the fall. And the DIRD team, the Division of Educator Recruitment and Development, while they were also working to put on the Educators Rising State Conference, they worked tirelessly behind the scenes to help lead these meetings, lead these sessions where we were able to pull in so many stakeholders that come through the research and led seamlessly from the Educators Rising state meeting right into this research collaborative. And we couldn't have done it without them. CJ and I had the opportunity, along with Associate Commissioner Brewer and Brian Perry, to meet with some of our legislators on Tuesday, following and preceding the Interim Joint Education Committee. And Senator Max Wise and also Representative Mike Kleins were interested in talking about things along the lines that align with recommendation one for ways that we can work on teacher recruitment and retention. And I let them know that we were bringing this recommendation to the KBE board today, and then recommendation to, I think, to the EPSB board in a couple of weeks. So they had even mentioned specifically what funding sources we needed to be looking at for the 2028 budget to make that happen. So I'm thankful for those meetings with those legislators. And Senator Aaron Reed was also amazing to talk about some of the things that we could do to strengthen the education profession. So building those networks to hopefully set these recommendations up for success in our coming months and years. I will pause there because the rest of my notes have to do with some of the things specific to EPSB, and just see, oh my gosh, seeing myself on the screen behind you, Dr. Sharon Robinson, is really intimidating.
Oh, Amber, please be at peace with what you see on the screen, because we
That's right.
sure are. We're loving it. Thank you so much. And I will present recommendation 2, and then we'll come back after we finish that. We'll come back to your further report from EPSB, because we don't want to miss it. As Amber said, we ended up with like 2 recommendations, because it was like, let's come at this with focus and with places where we see real leverage. And the other point of leverage is to support the further growth of our school leaders by strengthening principal capacity, particularly in human resource management and talent management at the school level, so that they can be supported in getting the most leverage out of the expertise that any group of teachers that you assemble will have a diverse range of expertise, some of which may not be strategically called into play on behalf of the interest of better student outcomes. So to help our principals be able to think in those terms and to support them in being able to organize and utilize the expertise that's there, or to be aware of expertise that they specifically want to recruit to their school. We're suggesting that this is a further way to strengthen retention by having teachers have their talents recognized and put to work as it benefits strengthening student outcomes. So as Amber noted with recommendation 1, recommendation 2 also comes with some possible next steps. So we're definitely suggesting that we have additional further work to do with our colleagues on the EPSB, because we feel like we are seeing some possibilities here that we want to explore further, and but we're happy to bring this update to you at this meeting. I'll be joining Amber to report to the EPSB in a few weeks. And let's just say, anticipate this topic on the retreat agenda. How about that? As we work together to further define how we might take next steps, we'll be bringing more to you at our retreat. Commissioner, you want to?
Thank you, Chair Robinson. Just a quick update, and I apologize for interrupting Chair Snell, but just something I think would be of interest that's related to this. As we know, Senate Bill 4 includes the principal training. Just to let you know where we are and what we're discussing now at this point, we have to have this implemented by July 1, 2027. So over the next 6 months, we are, first of all, we are going to create a new position within the department, but also repurpose a couple other positions to help with this principal training, 1. 2, we are also looking at working with an outside entity to facilitate meetings with K groups and other stakeholders to say, what do we expect our principals to know? Not only just the required trainings, but also talk about possible next steps, training, human capital management, mentoring and coaching for principals. What exactly does that look like? And then the last 6 months before this is implemented, to do some probably some mock trainings to see what it has, and we have some input and have that ready to go by July 1. So again, I think it's very important that we pull out an outside facilitator that would have that to pull us all together. That way we have, just very unbiased look at what exactly do our principals need and what does that look like. But again, we'll be inviting some stakeholders in over the next 6 months to have those facilitated meetings as we move forward. So very excited about this. We had different people within our department to put this plan together. We just talked about it yesterday, and that's what we're moving forward with as of this point. Just wanted to let you know because this ties perfectly into this area here.
Well, and I do want to echo Chair Snell's recognition of the KDE folks who really, really helped us make sense of all of this. First, by understanding that there is a body of knowledge that can be consulted, should be consulted, and it was really provocative. And that's why you do it. And then I was amazed at how often I would look at our notes and say, well, dag, yeah, that conversation was really productive because you're participating and your mind is going on various things, but they really helped us to synthesize and recognize when there was something worthy that really represented a foundation for our subsequent work. So it was very helpful facilitation in so many different ways.
But Dr. Brewer and Dr. Stewart, we got to get a better acronym. DIRD. DIRD's for life. Oh, it's so sad.
Yeah, we got to work on that, Alfonso. And then I'm going to ask Amber to make the report on other EPSB activities. Alfonso.
So I have a question, and I feel like my students who presented precisely on this matter with their STLP project, they would be just chasing me if I don't ask you all this. I heard about the growth and retention, I'm also interested in the recruitment side. What initiatives or what steps have been taken or what steps are being recommended to recruit teachers that can mirror the realities of our classrooms? And every year I always pull data from the Kentucky School Report Card, and I keep seeing the numbers that are, I mean, I don't want to say questionable, but at the same time, it's like the group of kids that I have led to STLP precisely created a campaign to suggest ideas to recruit teachers for our schools that could mirror the realities of our classroom, that would impact directly into things like belonging, safety, and that would connect to something that we discussed yesterday, which is chronic absenteeism. Just to give you this idea, but from the 600,000 plus of students that we have in Kentucky schools, 68,000 are African American, 66,000 are Hispanic. When you compare that to the teachers that we have in our schools, for the 68,000 plus students who are African American, we only have 1,600 teachers who are African American. For the Hispanic students that we have, Hispanic or Latinx, 66,000 plus students in our schools, only 490 teachers. And that's not just in terms of recruitment for the classroom. That's even more difficult when it transitions in terms of the leadership pipeline. To give you this idea, in my cohort of emerging leaders in JCPS that I completed, I was the only Hispanic Latinx of that cohort. So I wanted to ask if there have been done any steps, which I'm sure it has done, if there will be any steps, any recommendations, if that's something that could be part of the conversations during your retreat that I won't be able to be. Thank you.
Dr. Brewer?
So Alfonso, you are asking a question that we have posed ourselves. We want our classrooms to be representative of the student body. And I'm happy to report that since its origin, Educators Rising and the participants in our teaching and learning pathway have actually been more in line with the population of the Commonwealth and actually have surpassed that statistic in diversity of enrollment in our Educators Rising. So I think that's really the place where the investment in the teaching and learning pathway and its affiliated CTSO is really where we're going to have our best chance to recruit those teachers from a variety of backgrounds and perspectives.
Nice.
And especially for teachers who are multilingual, the fact that during the Ed Rising you created opportunities for students to showcase what they could do with languages. That was a huge deal for those kids. They were able to, like we said before, they were able to use their talents and showcase that in connection to something that they are dear to, which is becoming a teacher in the future. So thank you for that.
Welcome. Thanks so much. Amber, please.
Yeah, I was just going to echo kind of what Dr. Brewer was saying. Looking at the numbers from Ed Rising, it looks like at the state conference in 2021, there were, I'm trying to look and see, 76 students. And then in 2026, 875 students. So I think Dr. Brewer is right there in that is the pathway that we are really working to build that from the ground up of that teacher recruitment and retention, or recruitment specifically, and seeing those students speak about their schools and in the different languages was amazing. So moving into the report, I assume, Dr. Robinson?
Yes, please.
Awesome. Let's see. We had at the EPSB's April 21st meeting, the board unanimously approved the recommendations from the certification structure work group, tasking the staff within the Office of Educator Licensure and Effectiveness to revise regulatory language and develop a plan for transitioning science certification permissions and credentials, and develop a plan and timeline for educator preparation programs. The EPSB also heard from 3 Go Teach KY ambassadors, Dr. Tyler Saylor from Harlan Independent School District, Ms. Caitlin Kelly from the Fayette County Public Schools, and Ms. Crystal Blair from Jefferson County Public Schools. These speakers shared their experiences and key takeaways from their participation in the state interview initiative, which the Office of Educator Licensure and Effectiveness launched to uncover what motivates teachers to remain in the profession. It was also really helpful for us as we did our research collaborative. A presentation was also offered by representatives from Morehead State University's College of Education, which they reported as being the #1 most affordable Master's of Arts in Teaching program in Kentucky. This year, MSU also celebrates the 100th anniversary of expanding its teacher training program from elementary education to include secondary education as well. Similarly, representatives from Spalding's College of Education also presented to the EPSB and shared that when their institution was founded a century ago, one of their very first programs was education, and they continue to grow to this day with plans to soon add a school psychology program and other offerings. Spalding also emphasized how they prioritize deep relationships and collaborations with area schools, both in JCPS and one's privately run as well as the other Ohio Valley Education Cooperative and other partner agencies within the state. EPSB has since had 2 virtual meetings in May to review character fitness, as well as new educator complaints and reports. These meetings support our board's mission to enforce rigorous professional standards for preparation, certification, responsible and ethical behavior of all professional educators in Kentucky. We have our next in-person meeting on June 22nd. And before I ask if there was any questions, I just want to say, Ms. Pyle, I appreciate your information about the summer foods program. And as a family and a community that utilizes those programs, during COVID, I would load up for the neighborhood, my minivan, and pick up for about 20 families in our neighborhood and just drop off a week's worth of food at a time. I don't know who we need to advocate to at the national level, but the non-congregate only being at the rural areas is kind of biased against our urban areas and working families who would also benefit from a 7-day pickup option. So I don't know who we can advocate to at the national level, but being able to do that for your more urban areas and working families, that would be a huge benefit to those trying to feed their families during the summer, especially as they lose a lot of the support from our school food programs. So that being said, are there any questions I can answer about EPSB activities at this time?
So, Chair Snell, let me just check. I know that you'll be digging into additional information coming out of this research. We'll be looking more at implications for educator preparation programs and lots more work to do. So we're really excited about this opportunity to work together. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you on the 22nd.
Well, you'll see CJ. I will be at 4-H.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right, thank you. Board members, we are a little behind, but right on schedule to and ready to hear from Secretary Link for his report.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, Commissioner Fletcher, and other members of the board. It's good to see everyone virtually. I apologize for not being there. We have our friends from the U.S. Department of Labor in town this week, so we've been working with them on various different cabinet programs. But I would want to start with what I think is the top line good news is the governor has implemented 2 pilot pre-K for all programs in in Robertson County and in Rockcastle County. Those school boards and those superintendents were great to partner with to get this off the ground. And we are currently in the process of executing those memoranda of agreements to make that program a reality. And we hope certainly that in the future we can see that program grow. Also at the cabinet, we are in the process, as every other state agency, toward implementation of legislation that was passed in this past session, primarily or namely the Workforce Pell Program that will begin July 1st. So we're excited about those opportunities and working with our education and workforce partners on implementing that program. And I think there's great possibilities with that, as we've discussed in the past. Also, for our Everybody Counts program, we're looking at certainly sustaining the level of service that we have now, but also looking for opportunities to expand the service in other school districts across the state. Seems to be increasing interest in that and career coaching. So we want to do everything we can to help expand that in other school districts. In our unemployment insurance program, it really doesn't affect this board, but we're very excited about the continuing development of a new unemployment insurance program that will replace a 30-plus-year-old mainframe system that we all heard about during the COVID pandemic. That is moving along on schedule and on budget. And we will be implementing the unemployment insurance tax component of the system in the very near future, and that will benefit the employers who pay into the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund. And then scheduled for early 2028, but trying to beat that deadline, will be the benefits component of the system that will benefit all of the unemployment insurance claimants. Those people who have lost their job through no fault of their own and need that assistance as a bridge between losing their job and finding a new job. So that's going to be, I think, a transformational event for the Commonwealth. And lastly, just to touch upon it, we are continuing to work with the Dollywood Foundation on the Dolly Parton Imagination Library of Kentucky, and making sure that we have a sustainable model going forward. We're seeing in other states, and Kentucky, with thanks to our General Assembly, they did fund the program for another 2 years, but we're seeing other states that are either reducing or in some cases eliminating their state funds for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. I think we all recognize the great value of that for early childhood literacy and for families as well. So we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to find a sustainable model going forward as the economy changes, as pressures on government budgets change. We want to try to find a more sustainable way to keep that program going, because I think it's truly valuable. So those are my high-level updates. Hopefully that's gotten us close to back on schedule, and I'd be happy to address any questions that the board may have.
So Secretary Link, the announcement of the pilot pre-K programs was just quite exciting. And could you talk a bit about community readiness and community involvement in selecting the sites for the pilot programs?
Well, I would. I'm certainly not very well versed. A gentleman named Sam Flynn was the leader of that effort, but I do know that Superintendent Carrie Ballinger was on the Pre-K for All Advisory Committee, and she certainly sees the value and was a great partner in that. The superintendent from Robertson County, I'm not personally familiar with him, but I know that he stepped up immediately to offer Robertson County as a pilot site. So, and I think there's others that want to be a part of that. We just want to make sure we are biting off what we can chew, so to speak, and make sure that we have a good model going forward.
Well, another opportunity to learn more about how to do good for our communities and our kids. Thanks so much for mentioning that, and please, thanks for joining us today. Other questions,
Absolutely.
comments?
Good to see everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to just let you know that President Thompson of the CPE has placed his report in the portal. But now we'll move to the commissioner for the commissioner's report. Tom.
Thank you so much, Chair Robinson. Also, too, just want to mention Sanford Holbrook is the superintendent there in Robertson County, and as we mentioned, he's announced his retirement coming up soon. So Sanford has always been a strong supporter of the Pre-K for All initiative. So again, wanted to mention his name there too. But thank you so much, Secretary Link, and we appreciate all that you do also too as a part of this work. I do want to begin my report with several milestones that we celebrated this spring. The first week of May is Teacher Appreciation Week, and it's a great time for us to recognize the 42,000 plus school educators that help shape our young people's lives. And I guarantee that everyone in this room and everybody watching, I think we could name at least one, if not multiple teachers that put us to where we are today. So just celebrating them for 1 week seems like it's not enough by any stretch, and I know everybody's in the room takes time each day to celebrate and be with teachers and to thank them for what they do. And again, it's rarely a day that goes by that I don't think about Mr. Frank Baldridge, who put me on the path that I am today. So very thankful for him and all 42,000 educators that have been a part of our lives. Also in May, schools across the Commonwealth administered state testing to measure student performance and give students a chance to demonstrate the progress they've made over the school year. There are two types of tired that teachers really talk about most, and that's first of the year tired, and there's also testing weeks tired. So those are very different types of tired, but they're great times of the year. We do appreciate all the work that our teachers, and congratulations to our students on the work that they've done, and many have completed. I hope that we're right at the point of getting everyone completed as we move forward. Also, too, congratulate all of our high school graduates across the Commonwealth and wish them absolutely the best of luck as they take their knowledge that they've acquired to the next phase of their lives. As a superintendent, as a principal, I always say this is a bittersweet time of our lives, especially as an educator. You see a kid go across the stage, I got to shake their hand, so thankful, see the pride, and some of them we may have carried across the stage, figuratively. But when you walk out, there's that bittersweet moment of, did I do enough? Did we do enough? So it's great to see kids move on to the next, young adults move on to the next phase of their life, but also too, it's bittersweet for those of us that are in the education field so much. Also want to continue to share updates on Senate Bill 197, which was passed by the General Assembly this year, which requires a new procurement for a college entrance exam for the 2026-2027 school year. Governor Andy Beshear vetoed a provision in Senate Bill 197 that limited the use of general funds, but not the requirement for another competitive procurement process. As a result, KDE must begin procurement for the state-provided college entrance exam for 2026-2027. The request for proposal for the college admissions exam was issued on May 21st and is posted for public access to Kentucky's vendor self-service site. So if you have interest in that RFP, you're welcome to view that. This means that the 2026-2027 school year will begin without a decision on which college entrance exam juniors will use next spring. A little more update I'll add to that. At this point, we have included a representative from CPE to review the former RFP and to make suggestions, and we made some amendments to that RFP. Again, if you want to see that RFP, it is posted on as of May 21st. But again, pulling in the Council for Post-Secondary Education to ask what changes they would like to see, some changes that we had put in there also to make sure that we had a broader range of input. Also, too, as I stated, you can see that RFP on the Kentucky Vendor Self-Service site. I'd also like to mention we are also expanding the group that is part of the scoring team. We are asking we found out that we cannot have a district assessment coordinator as part of the scoring team because they're not state employees, but we are asking a district assessment coordinator to be a part of the technical advisory team that would, give us a lot of advice on as we move forward through the scoring. We're also including a member of CPE, the Council for Post-Secondary Education, as part of that scoring team as we move forward, again, to get a broader input of as we go through and do the scoring. At this point, just like the last time we went through the procurement process and the time before, the Finance and Administration Cabinet oversees the procurement process. And we've talked to them. They've worked very closely with us. We've sent things to the Commonwealth Office of Technology to make sure that everything is good to go there. And we're trying to get this process moved because as of right now, according to the Finance Cabinet, even if everything runs smoothly like clockwork, the earliest that we will know will be October. So this process, before we can name a vendor, will be October, and that is if everything runs very smoothly. That's something that we know that puts a lot of our districts at, a lot of our students in that with question marks. What do we help prepare for? What do we look for as we move forward? But again, we will do a very thorough. We'll take this step by step. We make sure that, again, the Finance Cabinet will make sure that we follow each step also too. They oversee this. But we want to make sure that we do a very fair procurement process as we do with all of our procurement processes as we move through. Unfortunately, it will be October at the earliest before we can name what will be the vendor for the college entrance exam for next year. And also, too, continuing legislation on House Bill 257, it encourages districts to work more closely with their communities to establish priorities for their schools. This was so exciting to see go through our legislature and the work that has been done by our Kentucky United We Learn Council, this board, and so many stakeholders. Again, we've talked about this several times. We didn't quite reach the moon, but we're on our way to orbiting. A lot of great, exciting parts of this, including, instead of local accountability in the law, it's called the Local Indicators of Quality. It's to help ensure that all students have access to vibrant learning experiences. As part of our high school transformation network, we've seen some great examples of things that are going on in our districts. I think if we worked around the room, we could talk about vibrant learning in pockets throughout the Commonwealth, but we want to make sure that all students have that opportunity. And I think House Bill 257 is an important step in making sure that happens. Mm-hmm. It does not, again, House Bill 257 does not affect this testing window or the fall data reporting this year, but there will be a few changes in the next year in 2027. State testing will no longer include editing and mechanics, on-demand writing, or the school climate survey. The focus for writing will be writing across the curriculum through policy at site-based councils. Again, something we've talked about, making sure that we have across the curriculum work when we have multiple disciplinary units put together for students. But again, having districts to develop those and encouraging districts to have that a part of their local accountability system. State testing, again, should be wrapped up for this year. It's not impacted, but next year it will be. There will also be a variety of accountability changes in 2026, 2027, which we've talked about. The board went through very thoroughly yesterday. I'd like to also thank the Center for Assessment for their work. I thought Laura Pinsino did a great job yesterday. And thank you also to Dr. Stafford and her team. But there will be some additional indicators, as we mentioned, chronic absenteeism, individual student growth, and the removal of other indicators. With that being said, we went through that very thoroughly. I don't think there's much more we'd have to add to that. So I'll move on to talk about the Kentucky School for the Blind. And there are photos on the slide, I believe. Listen, the best part of my job is getting to be in school systems. And KSB and KSD never lets me down when I go there. They're a lot of fun. They're enjoyable. As a matter of fact, I think you see our cheerleading squad. I think we had one student, if I remember correctly, was like the national cheerleader of the year. National mascot in their competition. So it was a lot of fun. But these photos are from two recent events at KSB that illustrate ongoing community collaborations that directly support our students. On the left is the Spring Fling Audible Egg Hunt, sponsored by the Clovernook Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and the KSB Charitable Foundation, which is a phenomenal group that helps to make so many things possible for our students. On the right, we have KSB students had an unforgettable experience working with the Asbury Tumbling Team, which my daughter attended. and my son-in-law. We don't have to go there. As they learned skills in tumbling, jumping, and stunting while building confidence and teamwork. Again, it's great to see our colleges and universities that come in and work with our groups also too. So very thankful for that. Next slide. At the Kentucky School for the Deaf, we have one of our graduates, or actually I think both these ladies were two of our graduates this year. The next slide includes photos of KSD recognizing two senior students, Madison Atkins and Allison Perez. Allison Perez, if I remember correctly, built two of the nicest Adirondack chairs I've ever seen. I was trying to take one home with me, but they wouldn't let me. But it was her ability to do the carpentry work was absolutely astounding. Madison on the left graduated from the Boyle County Youth Leadership Program and plans to attend college to pursue her dream of becoming an ag teacher. If you've seen her in that ag jacket, she is so proud to wear that thing around. Allison on the right recently led the fiscal court in the Pledge of Allegiance and proudly represented KSD. I extend my congratulations to both these ladies and thank you for the impact that you have made on KSD, but the future impact that you'll make on your community. So congratulations to both. Next, our ATCs, and as you can see, there's some amazing work going on at our ATCs, and this report will give a few highlights. At Rockcastle's ATC's Health and Science and HOSA Teddy Bear Clinic, health science students guided 185 first graders through a variety of stations, including registration, proper PPE, dental care, vital signs, x-rays, and more utilized stuffed animals as patients. Congratulations to them. Very appreciative that they used the teddy bears for that. On the right, the Ohio County ATC welding students Trey Cook and Chandler Fulkerson were recognized for partnering with local businesses to design and create custom signage. Amazing work again from our welding groups. If you'll see that, it's just absolutely amazing. The completed pieces showcase both student talent and the value of strong partnerships between education and a local business community. And again, this does conclude my report. And if you want a full written report, it is in the portal. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'm going to open with questions now, open for questions, comments, and further discussion. I do want to alert the board. I will ask you to consider a motion to affirm our support for a thorough, inclusive, high-integrity process of procurement that has been started with an RFP that we can consult, an RFP that represents the contributions from various perspectives relative to selecting our high school graduation exam for the state. In doing so, we are saying to the commissioner, we want to affirm that our job is to make sure the voices of interest have been heard and have been honored. Now our job is to pass on to the Finance and Administrative Cabinet the RFP that will guide the solicitation for bids. We will make sure, as the commissioner has committed, that we will have a scoring team that is able to do the work. They have the technical knowledge and the perspective required to do the work of scoring the proposals. And at that point, our hands, this is what we can do. And that I would like for us to affirm that our commitment is to do that with the highest integrity, and we affirm our support and commitment to that. Legal, fair, and really open and just high integrity all around. So I'm going to open the floor for comments and other observations. Lou?
Yes, so Dr. Fletcher, I've heard it said secondhand that folks have said things like, well, this is a fait accompli, this is going to be back to the same vendor the first time before. But I would like to dispel that publicly in that, as you noted, the RFP process has been changed and enhanced. The participants in that process have also been changed. And essentially, at this point, it's up to the vendors to come back with what will likely be refined, improved proposals as well. Is that a fair way to characterize where we are now in response to that kind of criticism?
Dr. Young, I think it's a very fair way. I believe that as we move forward, and again, with all of our procurement process, we enter in with trying to be unbiased. Well, we will be unbiased, and we follow through a rubric to say this is how they score. Of course, there is a finance end of how much does it cost, and there's also the substance end. And then we'll go through that scoring process and make sure that we have that as we move forward. But again, I feel like we're in a good spot. I think that we followed the procurement process previously. And, looking at, like I'll mention one of the changes, we were asking companies, whoever would like to make a proposal, how do you specifically address English and science? So that's going to be part of the scoring. So there's some things that have added into this process. That would, and again, there's a lot of other changes in there as we go through. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure this is an unbiased, that we go through the procurement process with open eyes. And I think that I know that we've expanded it to include others so that we can see other perspectives as we move forward.
Thank you.
It's a very good synopsis.
Thank you.
Randy?
Yes, I just want to follow up on what our vice chair just said. I think you've done a great job in outlining and explaining any particular changes so that people understand this is a different process than the first one, so it's just not a rubber stamp. The only question that I have remaining on that, and that's for you, Commissioner, is, I fully trust everything you just said and where we're going. The one critique that we had, or criticism that we had in the paper the last time, was that the Kentucky Board of Education did not vote on this because the KRS says it shall be approved by the Kentucky Board of Education. In the past, we've had our board attorney, Mr. Allen, done a good job of explaining how our internal processes, that the board delegates some of that responsibility to you. So I would just reaffirm that either in this motion that we have a part that we either reaffirm that we are giving you that the board is voting in this to give you that particular, continue with that particular authority, or if you prefer that, so there is no other any other criticism outside there, that this particular item versus changing our process, which we have a very good process. We don't want to change that for every decision we make, but what would be best there. So I just feel that that's something we want to have a little bit of discussion between you and the board chair and Dr. Allen, just for clarification before we take a vote on this resolution that board chair has put out.
Well, thank you, Randy, for raising that point. And let me assure the board, my intention is for the board to express its affirmation of this process as the fulfillment of our authority in this particular procurement process. It is our responsibility to be very diligent stewards of the process. And we, from the beginning, I think it was our January meeting when we reported on the meeting, we went through the outcomes of the General Assembly, and there was a full meeting that we discussed nothing else. And we focused on this process. State procurement must be fair, unbiased, and there can be no hint of self-interest in any way. And by setting up a process that puts it in the hands of folks who have the technical expertise to conduct the review and the scoring, relieves us of any possible bias regarding, no matter how that bias might be perceived or even suspected, to raise it to a higher level. So we want to keep our hands off of this, but except to say to the commissioner, design an RFP that addresses what we know to have been previous concerns, particularly about involvement and so forth, address what we know to have been a concern regarding the involvement of folks who had expertise to contribute and interest to contribute, and that opportunity was perceived to be not available in previous procurements. But we now have addressed all of that, and we put it in the hands of the state-required procurement process that relieves us of any concern regarding unworthy bias. Todd, do you have any further comment to make on this?
Sure, happy to provide some comments. I think that, as has been stated, this goes back to a few of the board's virtual learning sessions that they have carried out. So first of all, the question that Dr. Poe referenced, KRS 158-6453, does provide that the state board shall be responsible for creating and implementing a balanced statewide assessment program. But it's also important to read the history of that statute. So that was developed as part of KARA in 1990, that specific language, when Kentucky really started focusing on assessment and accountability. But at that point in time, the General Assembly did not dictate any specific content area that must be assessed or be in the accountability system. That was to the Kentucky Board of Education to determine. As time went on, especially with passage of the No Child Left Behind Act at the federal level, the State General Assembly started putting in specific requirements into the statute, topics that must be assessed and in accountability. So they started adding things like mathematics, English language arts. At a certain point, they also added in a college admissions assessment. Now, that's not a federal requirement. That is a state requirement. But I say all that to say, while the statute does say the KBE shall be responsible for creating and implementing a balanced statewide assessment system, the state board, as we've talked about in one of our virtual learning sessions, the more specific that the General Assembly gets, the less discretion the state board has. So the state board has no discretion to determine whether or not there's going to be a college admissions assessment. The statute even prescribes that it has to be administered in the spring. The state board they don't have discretion to determine that it's going to be in the fall instead of the spring. So that means that this is really a procurement activity. It's determining who the vendor is going to be for the assessment. The same thing that we do for our KSA assessments. We have a vendor that we select for all of those as well. And as we talked about, I think maybe in our very first virtual learning session, it has traditionally been the state board delegating the contracting authority to the commissioner. The statute provides that the state board shall either act on each contract or a policy for approval of contracts. And historically, since the beginning of KARA, that policy has always been delegating the authority to the commissioner. So I just wanted to provide that background information.
Thank you. Alfonso?
I appreciate that context because I wanted to ask a question, but now with that explanation, I understand better. Still, I couldn't help but hear what Dr. Fletcher said about bringing those valuable perspectives. So my question would be, now that I know more of the context and the process, are there any plans to include teachers later on in making the final decision, 1 and 2, thinking about the accomplishments that have been made through Kentucky United We Learn Council and the many things that have been achieved precisely because of that council? Part of that success is because there are teachers and there are students. And trying to parallel the same work that has been done through that council, I would like to encourage you to include not just the voices of the teachers, but also the voices of the students, because those are going to be the ones in our classrooms that are going to be taking that test at the very end. So, question, thoughts, comments, sorry.
Well, we appreciate that so much, and we are, as far as the putting together the RFP, we've moved forward with that. But as far as scoring, there's certain rules about scoring and who we can use. And that's where we're at the step that we are now of what we can use as we move forward. So utilizing CPE, utilizing the people here in the context of what's expected in the college admissions exam is something that we've gone through so far. It's very strict on what we can do as we move forward. But again, we do appreciate that input, and that's where we are now. Dr. Stafford, anything you'd like to add to that? Thank you.
So, board members, I am going to ask you for a motion, which is a motion of affirmation of procurement process as outlined by the commissioner, including delegation of the contract development to the commissioner for the college admissions examination provided by Todd. Please give me the reference, the legislative reference.
KRS 158.6453.
Thank you. May I have such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Further discussion, question, debate? I'm gonna put the question to you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Thank you very much. Commissioner, thanks so much for that report and for helping us to come face to face with a very important matter on which the board really needs to speak. Now, I will ask that we move into our review items and invite the KBE Associate Commissioner Kelly Foster and Division Director Sarah Snipes to the table to present an update on our local accountability design guide and toolkit implementation. Another exciting milestone for us. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Before we get started on our actual presentation, I kind of wanted to catch the board up a little bit about the current work that's going on. I know there were some questions earlier about the L3s and how they're being used. And I know I have some additional newer board members since the L3s went into effect. So just wanted to address that a little bit. So the L3 program, that was a 3-year pilot program that was funded by a grant from the U.S. Department of Education. And so that grant ended a few years ago, and what we used to know as L3 work, that has sunsetted, and then we moved into the Portrait of a Learner work, the local accountability work, the vibrant learning work. So those original districts that were identified as L3 districts, there were 18 at the time, that project was to learn from those districts what they saw that they were doing that was innovative, ideas that they had for the future. So the L3 groups, as we used to know them, have sunsetted, and then we've moved into the work with the Portrait of a Learner, local accountability, and vibrant learning. And many of those districts that were in the L3s are also part of our new work. And so currently we have 12 districts that have some sort of local accountability system in some way, shape, or form. And currently, we have a community of practice that was recently started with those districts to learn more about the work that they're doing with vibrant learning, local accountability systems, and Portrait of a Learner. And then I will also update you that we have a project going on also right now with Knowledge Works, and there are some previous L3 districts in that work, as well as non-L3 districts. And we are working with those districts and Knowledge Works to kind of come up with a lot of the information that I think will go along with transforming high schools, looking at course codes, thinking about those ideas that you referenced yesterday, having an English 1 and an English 2, and maybe for what was traditionally English 3 and 4 would be like a business English. So all of this fits together. And I think one of the things that my office will probably recommend after your all's recommendations go to the Cool Council, we, over the last year and a half, we have created an internal group called the Vibrant Learning Team. And multiple offices are part of that team. My office, the Office of Continuous Improvement and Support, Mickey Marinelli, the Office of Teaching and Learning, Jennifer Stafford, OAA, and Beth Hargis with Career and Tech Education. So we have that cross-agency team that is really trying to put all those parts and pieces together. And so I think one of the next steps would be your all's recommendations to the Cool Council, feedback from the Cool Council to that Vibrant Learning Team, so we can really make the biggest gains with all the efforts that are going across the board. And today, we are here to talk about the Local Accountability Design Guide and Toolkit. And if my memory serves me right, I think that we came to you all possibly last October when we released that toolkit and guide to kind of give you an overview. And today I have Sarah Snipes, one of my directors, with me, and she is going to do a little bit deeper dive as far as how have our regional innovation specialists, say that fast 3 times, have been using the guide and toolkit over the last 6 or 7 months, and what we are seeing that districts are using the toolkit for. So I will turn it over to Sarah, and she will kick us off.
Thank you. I always appreciate being in this seat because it means I get to show off and talk about the good work our districts are doing. So consider myself fortunate there. As Dr. Foster mentioned, it's just been an exciting and incredible whirlwind of an evolution of this work. To start where we were with an original cohort of 7 districts who wanted to just entertain the idea of what assessment and accountability could look like, to be where we are today with 155 districts who have a portrait of a learner. It's certainly been a journey, and we hope to give you all some updates today about what that looks like in reality for our districts and ultimately, and most importantly, for those kids. So if you'll go to the next slide, please. As Dr. Foster mentioned, didn't want to spend too much time in the content itself, but rather show you what this has looked like in the field. So in the Local Accountability Design Guide and Toolkit, I really want you to think about this as a living document. As we learn from the field, it continuously grows, evolves, and gets updated. So in that guide, you'll see really some level setting. How do we all agree on common terminology? So currently defining local accountability, those technical quality essentials, articulating our theory of change and the outcomes that we hope to reach through the Kentucky United We Learn Council's work, action steps grounded in key strategies to make those things come to reality. And we're also looking at some incredible district spotlights and deep dive case studies that you'll find throughout. Ultimately, our hope is to build out a robust toolkit that helps districts not start from scratch in the actual resources they need to implement their journey along the way. So today I'm just going to guide you through the 4 main points on the side here that you find woven throughout this resource: Portrait of a Learner, Vibrant Learning Performance Assessment, and Local Accountability and Local Indicators of Quality. Next slide, please. Want to lift up a partnership that we have with the Kentucky Center for Next Generation Leadership, working with them over the last several years through our grant, beginning with L3s and through the United We Learn Council. Learning from the field arose this actionable framework, and I want to draw your attention to the intentional parallel of this system. And so what you see on the top there is really about the learner journey. Districts we find in Kentucky have typically found an entry point by defining success for their students, coming together as a community to define what do we want students to know and be able to do by the time that they leave us. Along that nonlinear continuum, we often see districts start to explore the designing of vibrant learning experiences to help us in the effort to get students to meet that definition of success. And that learning journey, that learner journey, culminating in the successful demonstration of those aspirations. Paralleling that structure, then on the bottom is that district system. So what we want for students, we also hope for the system at large. So as we define success for students, also thinking about what are those metrics and indicators of success for the district as a whole. That leads districts into designing an interactive accountability system by which they measure and hold themselves accountable to those success indicators. And then lastly, also demonstrating as a district how they are performing in those indicators, and ultimately what opportunities and supports they are providing their students. Next slide. Just wanting to break that down for you a little bit more here. That continuum goes into much more detail that you can find articulated throughout the guide. But ultimately, as I mentioned in the last slide here, just breaking down what we mean as districts move throughout, again, not in a linear sense, but move through this continuum to design both for students and our larger district system. Next slide. Just reiterating there, the district-facing, defining, designing, and demonstrating within local accountability. So as we move on, this is the exciting part that I was eager to share with you today. Action 1 in our guide, defining success for students. A strategy that you'll see throughout is grounding us in the entry point of a portrait of a learner. And want to lift up here Russell County Schools. They are not an original L3 district, and so want to emphasize how this work has scaled, as we always hoped it would, to districts who were never involved in that work to begin with. And it's taken off. And Russell County Schools want to acknowledge the hard work they've done to bring together an inclusive community team. They actually embedded this process in an existing structure for morning breakfast meals with their community. Everyone loves a good meal and a breakfast even more. So they've been able to engage consistently over 50 diverse in bringing their community together to answer that question. What do we want students to know, be able to do, and be like? And so in addition to the 50 consistent voices across their community that have been in those design sessions, they've also been able to receive 243 unique responses to their surveys to make sure that they're adequately capturing the true values of the entire Russell County community. And just want to center there in the bold the result. Ultimately, we hope all of this work results in a transformed student experience. And in Russell County, that's looked like deeper community ownership, and students are at the center of that portrait. In fact, I believe we made this about a month ago, but since then, those very students who've been involved took their portrait to their local school board and have since been able to share that work themselves for local approval and adoption. To scale that out and just kind of zoom in, but also zoom out to the statewide progress, wanted to show you that as far as Portrait of a Learner goes, the top there you'll see key implementation supports that our regional innovation specialists and Division of Innovation, and as well as our partners, have been able to provide. These are the actions we've taken in alignment with what you see in the toolkit. We know that putting a resource out to the field, we're dealing with busy folks who need that time in front of kids. And so how do we make sure that in addition to a static paper document, we're also bringing this work to life in supports that we can provide? So we've been in the field. We affectionately call Regional Innovation Specialists the RIS. They have been working to co-facilitate those design sessions with communities like in Russell County. They're leading district strategic planning sessions for 3 or more years. Developing student-friendly language, helping teachers come to the table to develop what performance indicators and outcomes look like to make sure that they know from K to 12 what these portrait competencies look like in development for students. The snapshot you see there is as of April 2026. This also helps inform our agency strategic dashboard. You can see there, just wanting to point out the celebration, that we've seen a 58% growth in districts moving into the implementation phase. So we saw a surge getting us to 155 districts with developed portraits, and now we're seeing some tremendous growth in making sure that gets into our classrooms. Action 2. Designing vibrant learning experiences. Want to call up and just give a shout out to Hardin County Schools. They have really invested in instruction centered around authentic, community-driven problems. And I think that's the most enriching way we can bring meaningful content delivery and instruction to students, is having them apply that within the context of their real world and community. And so grades 6 through 12, implement PBL and problem-based math problems as well. All middle and high school students have access to explore over 40 CTE pathways. And to build up the culture, as you'll see as a result, they've really worked on the culture of vibrant learning throughout that district for consistency. And that even shows up in awards for their educators to acknowledge that they are real leaders in innovation ownership and growth to recognize those practices in classrooms, and who are themselves building the protocols and resources in Hardin County to move that work forward. A statewide snapshot of vibrant learning experiences. Again, some of the things that our team and partners are working to help get the content of the design guide out into the field where it's making an impact has been training teachers and leaders on what it means to design standards-aligned, meaningful, engaging learning experiences for every student, really thinking about strengthening Tier 1 instruction for deeper learning, co-creating modules for project-based learning, and helping them see the alignment between vibrant learning and their high-quality instructional resources. We are seeing a snapshot celebration that we've seen an 87% reduction in unengaged districts. This is self-reported / observations that our staff have made in the field, but an 87% reduction in unengaged districts, as now the majority of our schools would self-report that they're providing VLE for their students. Action 3 centers around demonstrating student success. Bracken County Schools, they have put a lot of time and energy into creating a robust performance assessment system. In fact, it is a key objective of their revised 24 through 29 strategic plan. And they have staff who have attended our regional sessions, a rollout of the design guide and toolkit, as well as a professional learning series that was hosted at their local co-op. They have also really leaned into the support of their peers. So learning from other districts, studying their performance assessment systems, and then applying that in their local context. And so ultimately the result there has been an exciting implementation fully to scale within their 8th grade defenses of learning that happened just recently here in May. And they've established solid plans embedded within their district's overall strategic plan to roll that out to scale for grades 5 and 12. Again, zooming back out to the statewide level, we are continuing to work with every district that will take us up on it, building their understanding of the purpose and value of performance assessments, really facilitating teacher work sessions to co-develop those tasks, and supporting systemic planning for defenses of learning in districts. The statewide celebration point here is that we've seen a 56% growth in active implementation for districts who are either embedding student-led conferences, mastery-based grading, or running and assessing student defenses. My last district example today is really going to show us the extent of a full journey through Action 4 and 6 of the guide, which is defining, designing, and demonstrating the school's district success. Grant County Schools has really taken on a tremendous effort with a relatively new superintendent who's just done a fantastic job bringing that community together to ensure that they cut through the education jargon, cut through and make accessible what it means to talk about the values between community and the local school district. So excited to watch Grant County evolve as they've co-created with their community 3 standards, 3 indicators that they value: growth, community, and success. And so district leaders there have been collaborating with their co-ops. They've been learning from other district leaders about the technical details as they built their dashboard, which you can see as a screenshot there. Ultimately, the results here in Grant County have helped them move beyond compliance to that local vision. They have helped build a bridge with their community by cutting through the educational jargon of what their strategic plans really mean, and that has built trust in that community. And ultimately, it's leading to a changed student experience where it's centering growth, community, and success as they work to track student progress there.
Sarah, I go back to that previous slide.
Yes.
I just have to stop, and when I read this the first time, I thought, boy, those words, trust, trust, trust. And that means people are understanding what we're talking about. So the helping to strip away the jargon to get to the action and decision-making required at the local level has really, I think, inspired a sense of trust, capacity, and I believe pride. But I am so glad to know that we're embracing this. Yeah, we know the jargon because we studied it, but to use what we know, the jargon doesn't work. I mean, it is, we have to engage, and that means really communicating so that people can bring their questions, their doubts, and their dreams to the table on this important matter. So thank you for acknowledging that.
Absolutely. It's been a key piece of that, rebuilding trust in a lot of places. Every district I've talked to who have gotten to this point in their journey, and even in just developing those success indicators for students through their portrait, have talked about the tremendous impact it's had in building that bridge to their community, and in a lot of ways, or in some ways, rebuilding that connection and trust. So districts and their community partners are really seeing this reciprocal relationship. The district is reaching out to us. They care about the things that we value for the betterment of our entire community, and we're holding each other accountable to get our kids to where we all collectively want them to be. As we zoom out into local accountability at the statewide level, as Dr. Foster mentioned, that number of districts who have public reporting mechanisms for their local indicators of quality still remains relatively low, right? Because they're on this journey that we've just articulated throughout. So we're meeting districts wherever they are, and we're seeing some tremendous growth. So as districts start with a portrait of a learner, we know that as they go along in a nonlinear way along that continuum, that we hope to get them to a place where they are meaningfully reporting progress as a district to their communities, and that communities have helped co-create that process along the way. So a celebration here is an 85% increase in districts who are entering the co-creation phase to begin stakeholder engagement and define what success means locally. So imagine if we've got about 155 districts with portraits, they are starting to move through that development and implementation at the classroom level while convening their communities or reconvening those community stakeholders to parallel that conversation with district success. Lastly, I just want to lift up some ways that you can learn more. I was only able to bring you 4 district examples today, and we appreciate the effort that's gone into the work happening in those 4 local districts, but there are so many more out there, and the growth has been rapid and exciting. So KDE has developed a How It's Working in Districts webpage. There you can find a local accountability video, screenshot examples linked for you there featuring Rockcastle, and lunch and learn recordings that we host each month with 2 district leaders who just sit down over a lunch and tell their story along this journey. We've had Washington and Grant, as well as Newport Independent and Frankfort Independent so far, share their stories at that link. Lastly, wanting to point out to you our 2nd annual Vibrant Learning Collaboratives. Do want to note that since this presentation was created, we have gone from 5 to 4 locations. Due to enrollment at the Gateway location, we want to ensure our capacity is best given to all sites as we grow the enrollment numbers. And so after talking with Northern Kentucky Co-op, as well as Gateway there up in Northern Kentucky, we decided to communicate to anyone enrolled to attend some of the other sessions. So the Vibrant Learning Collaboratives are really intended to be for teachers by teachers, a time where educators can come as presenters of the work that they're leading in classrooms to bring vibrant learning experiences to their students and learn from one another. And so we're excited that our higher education institutions actually this year reached out and have agreed to host us for each of those. So an exciting opportunity, as many of them even want their pre-service teachers to have an opportunity to attend. So thank you all so much. Wanting to close this with just the reflection that our students are proving every day the larger vision that we've had for this work for so many years now, and they are producing learning evidence. They are so much more than a data point, and we see the rich body of evidence that they are creating, and ultimately I think the best data point that we have in that is the success that they're having once they leave our K-12 system, and demonstrating the knowledge and skills that they've gained along the way. So we've got a long way to go, but we are in a tremendous place and appreciate your all's continued support in helping us get there.
The last piece that I will add to that is, we are being very intentionally internally about trying to connect this work to all offices across the agency. And I think as we're finalizing our 2nd CSGA grant, we have been real intentional in the language that we have provided for that grant, that this just isn't work that happens in OCIS in one division with 4 little regional coaches. This is work that is happening across the agency in lots of different offices through, tier 1 instruction with students. So we are hopeful on our second grant application, but I do think it will stand out compared to our first one, and USAID will be able to see how we have grown this across the state and across the agency, and there are multiple offices really looking at vibrant learning experiences and how to ensure that they're part of Tier 1 instruction for all students. Thank you all.
Commissioner, you recognize that young man?
I do. Mr. Mayor, there's an excellent soccer player. I think he's one of the leading scorers in the state for the state records, as a matter of fact. But with that being said, one of the things that people may miss that's in this picture is the collaboration. And the reason being is if you look at the flight simulator that's there, we had a local business that felt so important, felt so that they wanted to support this program so much that they actually purchased flight simulators. And when we had students to go on to other schools that had simulators, and they said that ours were much more responsive than what they were finding in the college settings. And I say that to say is not only our districts are working together to say this is what we can offer, these are our needs, and then we're having community members say back, how can we help? Those are all gentlemen that are members of the Rotary there that are and I don't remember this, maybe this was taken after I left, but Lawrence County, but those are both gentlemen that are part of the Rotary that are there to just tour to see all the things that are going on, because the other thing is telling our story. So many of our community members, they don't realize the opportunities that our students are having, and they think school is the same high school they attended, I'll say back in the 90s. Early 90s, as Lou put in the 1900s, back in the 1900s, as Lou put it in one of our other meetings. Yes, in the 1900s, that's how she put it, yes. So with that being said, the collaboration is one of our 3 pillars of that makes this more possible for more students. And it's amazing to see our communities jump on board to say, it doesn't have to be finances. It could be time. It could be mentoring. It can be so many different ways. But Beyond the Bubble Sheet is a perfect title for this, because so much of what we're doing with kids are so much more than a test score, and it's way beyond the bubble sheet of what we're seeing on in our schools.
Madam Chair, I echo those comments from the commissioner. Many thanks to Sarah and to Kelly and the work that's underway. We have an inside joke at my UK Next Gen team that this is happening, people. We're kind of making fun of one of the fellows on our team who's always really pessimistic that things are going to happen, but we use it to talk about innovation as it's occurring and seeing it take deep root across the Commonwealth. So since the establishment of the Kentucky Advancing Education Continuum Consortium to Kentucky United We Learn, I think it's really good for us to stop and take stock of the fact that this board's vision is coming to life across Kentucky. So my team at home will understand this is happening, people.
Randy?
Yeah, I just want to echo everything that was just said. I mean, to me, this is wow. Kelly and team, what a great job. I remember going back a few years ago with KSA and the conversations we had when we called not vibrant learning, but we were getting into deeper learning, and we had the session and so forth with John Tanner at KSA, and I think we had 8 districts that were jumping on board, and now to see 134 is just fantastic. And I truly believe this is the future of the work. This may be a small part of our accountability overall, but I think for the future, this will be the major part. The assessment, like you said, the bubble sheets are part of it, but beyond the bubble sheets, it's more important for vibrant learning and for our kids when they're finished. Mr. Payton, myself had a conversation yesterday. Education is great, but it's what can we do with the education after we have the education? And this is local accountability is part of that. As Robbie said, Commissioner Fletcher said, it's the collaboration, everything that was said, but just great job. I just want to say great job. I mean, it's exciting to see how far this has grown from the initial seeds. So because I always talk about return on investment, I think this is one of the parts of return on investment from that deeper learning grant that we got. And I think districts were able to utilize some of those funds to see the real importance of this particular work. And that's part of, I also want to say, Kelly, thank you for, Dr. Foster, thank you for your intro at the beginning, because I think we start a lot of things and then we go to things, but what we got to do is tie that history together. So the ones that's doing all this great work aren't thinking that, wow, wait a minute, we're trying to turn 134 districts around and we're trying to transform, but now we're being forgotten because we're going to go to a different committee or something to that effect. So thank you for reestablishing that also. Great job all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Other comments? I know I'm watching the time, but I do want to point out that part of what we are getting out of this work is a degree of organizational development in KBE itself that I suspect is going to be a very, very important asset in that we are witnessing the results of so much collaboration across so many different units that folks are not really, they don't seek permission, they just do the work. And doing the work means bringing your colleagues to the table to inform, to contribute, to critique, to challenge, because you all own it. And that's a degree, an aspect of organizational development that we should take special note and cherish and nurture. So I commend you all. We got to go to the budget now. Thank you so
From the sublime to the ridiculous.
And I know that Matt and his team will not be put off by that, but it's necessary, right? It's essential. So we invite KDE Associate Commissioner Matt Ross and KDE Division Director Karen Worth to present an update on the 26-28 biannual budget. Let's get started. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. This is happening. So,
Exactly.
so we've spent a lot of time over the last year talking about sort of the lead up to the budget and how the budget's created. Well, now we're on the other side, and the General Assembly has enacted a budget for the next 2 years. So we'll spend a little bit of time talking about House Bill 500, which is the biennial budget, House Bill 900, which included some additional appropriations, and Senate Bill 197, which was some cleanup language. It was kind of an unusual budget approach by the General Assembly this year. The House filed a budget that was bare bones, to use their language. That meant it had stripped out a lot of traditional language within the budget. That went over to the Senate. The Senate sort of restored a lot of the language that had historically been in there. And then it went back and forth with the conference committee, ultimately ending up with House Bill 500. And then because of the way it started, some language was left out. They wanted to make some additional changes. So then they did Senate Bill 197, which passed at the very end of the available legislative days. That allowed for the governor to do some line item vetoes that were veto proof, meaning that the General Assembly could not override those. So we'll talk a little bit about all that. Want to give you an opportunity to ask questions. So if anything comes up you don't understand, please just ask questions. We're happy to try to clarify, help in any way we can. So with that, I'll let Karen start, and I'll try to interject and take a few slides myself.
Thank you, Matt. Good morning. Yeah, the next slide that you're seeing there is just basically a table showing you KDE's budget in fiscal year 26, 27, and 28. As you can see, it's broken down by our 3 appropriation units. Of course, SEEK, all of the dollars in the SEEK appropriation go directly to our school districts. We did see a slight increase in SEEK overall, less than 1%. And unfortunately, our big ask for SEEK transportation assistance didn't go anywhere. We stayed flat in Seek Transportation. So we will continue to advocate and rally through the off-season in the interim session that will be next year, and the importance of that to offset those costs for our school districts. BOSS, of course.
Can you remind me again
Yes,
while
ma'am.
we separate out BOSS and Lars?
BOSS is the operations side of the house, that, and Lars would be the programmatic
So
side
just
of
for
the house.
understanding the reporting of it, okay.
So in the BOSS appropriation, you have the Commissioner's Office, Legal Services, you have OFO, OET, Education Technology. So really those central office support.
Back office.
Staff that we're the processors. We're the bill payers, and we're the contract creators. We're the technology gurus, and of course our legal services that we use on a daily basis. Lars is all of our program offices. We have teaching and learning. We have Kelly and OCIS, assessment, CTE. So they do the academic work, and we provide the support for them to be able to do that. We did see overall, if you look at the totals going across the bottom, we did see an overall between 27 and 28 of a little bit of an increase of 4%. We always like to see things going up. We stayed pretty flat in Seek and BOSS, but Lars did get a bump, and that was due to some additional funding that was provided in the Lars appropriation that we'll kind of touch on here in a bit. Let's start with Seek first. In House Bill 500, our per pupil was increased from $45.86 to $46.26 in fiscal year 27 and $47.92 in fiscal year 28. We always like to see those increases to our per pupil. Our Seek Transportation, we've discussed, remained flat, which is disappointing, but we'll continue to rally behind the importance of full funding for that. National Board Certified Salary Supplement was decreased $655,500 down to a flat $4 million. We don't know the thought process or reasoning behind this. We had not asked for additional funds in this biennium. Those funds were sufficient to support the number of National Board Certified teachers. Actually losing the $655,500 won't affect or won't make us have to reduce the rate of the supplement. So we're still going to be okay, but definitely something we want to keep in mind, because if we see a reduction this time, we want to make sure we don't continue to see that as we move forward through future budget request. We did receive.
Yeah, I was going to say, the Star Academy, we received $1 million additional for the Star Academy. To say it's reduced is kind of a misnomer, because this was something we'd not asked for before. So they provided an additional $1 million for the Star Academy program, and I think that was a pilot, that was a 3-year pilot.
Correct.
Right, so we'll have $1 million, which we can provide to another school district to try a Star Academy.
Before we leave that slide, just to double check on Seek, those are the base Seek. There were no additional funding in the add-ons, English learners,
true.
home hospital.
You're correct.
And then also the model laboratory school seat calculation adjustment. So that's, model laboratory receives a separate appropriation. This was some adjustments within SEEK for school districts that sent kids to model. So they have reduced those adjustments for school districts, which seem to be part of an overall thought process where they were reducing districts' ADA when they would send their kids to a Gatton or a Craft, which we'll touch on on another slide.
And if I may, just for a point of reference or for comparison, that SEEK transportation number is about, 81%?
That's
of what's required for funding for districts. So about 81%. We talk a lot about having SEEK transportation fully funded. That's approximately 81% of what the cost will be next year.
So districts have to cover the full cost, so they have to get it from somewhere, so they take it from their general fund. So that's money that could be going towards instruction or other opportunities for students.
And as fuel costs increase, everything that matters, that percentage is going to decrease. That's a flat amount for 2 years, correct?
Oh, yeah.
And so next year, that may be 72%. But right now, for this upcoming year projected, we're projecting that to be about 81% of the cost.
So Commissioner, could I ask that we return to this matter of SEEK transportation at a subsequent meeting? Because I really do want to understand the dynamic of this on the local districts. What are their options? I mean, I know they have some discretion in how they spend money, but it's of interest to me to understand what undesirable decisions and choices, trade-offs they're going to be faced with as we sail into what we see now. I mean, we're experiencing it now, and there's no real relief on the horizon. So I do think this is I would like for the board, I'd like to understand that better so that we can understand what options we have and what ways we can support or better articulate the needs of our local communities.
If I may add, just very quickly, not to belabor the point, but Mr. Ross is absolutely correct. You're looking at that other 19% has to come from either the local tax base that's been from taxes collected, which means that you're going to make a sacrifice. Do you sacrifice teacher pay? Do you sacrifice programs for students? Do you sacrifice? But again, that other 19% has to be found in other areas. And again, just for those that people may be watching, this is not transportation for extracurricular activities. This is not this is getting students to and from school. So so that you know it's, and there's different T codes. So do you transport a student for 1 mile versus greater than 1 mile or less than 1 mile? Things of that nature. So you get a certain amount of funding, and you don't get funding for every single student because you don't transport every single student. So again, transportation is, again, there's a sacrifice. You have to prioritize where are you going to pay for that additional fuel, the maintenance on buses, things of that nature.
Thank you. Please.
So,
Karen, go ahead.
so the HB 500 included some language around SEEK per pupil reporting. This has been an interest of the General Assembly for a couple years, but it doesn't impact funding. It's more about display of a desire to show all the dollars that a General Assembly puts towards education to be reflected in a per pupil number. So when we talk about per pupil, we're talking about the money we give school districts for their funding, right? So we're not including within that per pupil things like the on behalf payments for like health insurance, retirement, because we're not we pay that on behalf of school districts, so it doesn't make sense. But I do understand the thought that overall, if you wanted to know how much does the state of Kentucky invest in education, you could put all that number together. So we're working to come up with a way to show that number. It will still have the per pupil amount, but we'll have a second per pupil amount that will show total cost. And that was just a requirement of the General Assembly within House Bill 500. The next is the Kraft, Gatton, and the new Votruba Academy. Those students will no longer be included within the ADA of their home districts, their districts of residence. Those academies receive an appropriation from the General Assembly, but historically, their school districts that sent their kids there could include them within the ADA and receive SEEK funding. So it was a little bit of an incentive to send those kids. But the General Assembly has removed that. Then there was a transportation calculation flexibility. This really impacted one district. Their transporting their SEEK transportation was impacted because of a school district that was under construction and couldn't open. So this really allows them to use this prior year in their SEEK transportation funding and believe that it will only impact one school district. And then as far as the nickels, we talk about the nickels that school districts adopt for facility needs. So if a school district adopts a recallable rate, then the General Assembly can equalize that And so they did fully equalize all those school districts that adopted retroactive nickels. And I think there was, it was more than like, yeah, I think it was almost an historical amount, like 16 school districts adopted recallable nickels. So, next slide.
Okay, so now to move to the BOSS appropriation, in House Bill 500, there is language and funding that has been there for several biennium for advanced placement in international baccalaureate exams, where the department pays directly to the vendor for school districts costs to give those exams to students. We in the past had received $1 million for free and reduced lunch students, and $2.6 million. And the language around that was for first come, first serve. The free and reduced lunch was reduced from $1 million to $960,000 in the first year, $930,000 in the second year, and the 2.6 for the free and reduced lunch was eliminated from our budget. So definitely not anything that we wanted to happen. We enjoyed and we're glad and that we could provide that support for our school districts and our students in taking the AP courses.
So the 2.6 million was for the general subsidy of
That's correct.
of AP exams on a first come first served basis. That's been eliminated completely, right? So we no longer have that money to offset the cost for kids that are not eligible for free and reduced price lunch.
Right.
So I think that's a substantial loss, I think.
Sure. Yeah, that was a great support that we were able to give to our students and districts. Blind deaf travel, it was reduced a little bit in each year of the biennium. Again, kind of like the National Board Certified Teacher, we don't have any reasoning behind the calculation that went into that reduction. Educator employment liability insurance, that was introduced in our budget in the previous biennium, and it was funded again. It was reduced a little bit down to $4.8 million. We did do a competitive solicitation and secured an liability insurance provider for a secondary policy for our school district. So we will just continue moving forward with that through the life of the contract until a new bid has to be done. And also for school and community nutrition, every spring, we see an uptick in the not just maybe the rates that school districts can be reimbursed for, whether it's summer meals or CACFP meals, but also an increase in participants. So every spring, it seems like that my team is working with School and Community Nutrition Director Lauren Moore to determine how much extra appropriation we're going to need. When you see $100 million, you think, wow, that's not money in our hand, that's appropriation. That's federal appropriation that allows us to spend the money that we're receiving from the Department of Agriculture for all of those different school and community nutrition programs. So it eliminates a process that we have to do every spring where we have to ask for an increase in appropriation. This was one of our ABRs that we had asked for. So we were glad to see that.
So within HB 500, there's some reporting requirements. The employment report, that is a report that we have to provide to the General Assembly on KDE employees, position and salary. We've had that for a biennium or two now. Also, we have to do a certified and classified staff compensation increase report. So that's school districts that provide raises to their employees. We have to collect information and provide that report to the General Assembly. There were a couple new reports. One is the local school district insurance coverage report. We have to work with the Department of Insurance to collect information on school district property liability insurance. That was of interest to the General Assembly, whether or not school district facilities, their buildings are adequately insured. So we have to collect that information, work with the Department of Insurance, and provide that back to the General Assembly. And then also another thing that was of interest around facilities was school district projects and indebtedness reports. So we have to work with SFCC, collect information on school districts that have projects underway and projects that are bonded, that they've sold bonds on, and then provide that information back to the General Assembly. Next slide, please.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Projects that are bonded at the local level, there's no sign off at the state level. They don't guarantee those bonds, right?
So, no, but what happens is there is something called state intercept. So if a school district, God forbid, were to get in trouble and not be able to make a bond payment, the state can intercept their SEEK money and put that towards their bond payment. So we don't, it's sort of a guarantee. It provides those bonding entities with a certain level of comfort that the security around their bonds. Does that help?
Sure.
Yep.
It means the state's going to reallocate the money.
Sure. Right, and ultimately, the state's bond rating can be at risk, so it's in its interest to take care of that.
Good question.
Okay, moving into the LARS appropriation, we did have an ABR for additional funding for KSB and KSD. However, that was not funded. Those amounts did remain flat from the current biennium. So we will continue to provide the additional support needed from KDE operations. There's approximately 1.8 million in additional funds needed between those two schools to operate, to pay staff, and to provide the services to the students, because they are such specialized campuses.
I think that's important to emphasize here is that the current appropriation does not cover the operations of either of those schools, and that KDE happily provides money from our general fund, but we have asked for an increase in appropriation in the past, and it continues to be a need because it does take away from other initiatives, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and as we've shared before, both of those schools do follow the Jefferson County salary schedule. So any increases they receive in Jefferson County, any step in rank to any of our staff there at either of the schools have to be supported. So when the allocation doesn't go up, we still need to do those things, and we need to provide the increments for our teachers and classified staff. So it's disappointed to not see an increase there, but we'll keep on going. That's what we do. Data seam made its way back into our budget this year. We hadn't seen data seam for, I guess, 2 biennium in our budget. I believe it's been maybe in the cabinet's budget. But we did receive $3 million in each year for data seam. And we will do a contract with them to.
You might,
What
you
is
might
data seam?
inform the board about what data
So-
seam is.
Data seam is a entity that provides computers to school districts, and those computers can be used by students during the day, but at night those computers are used to do research through U of L, I think, on things like cancer and COVID and things like that. To use the joint computing power at a time when students aren't using that.
Read to Achieve. Read to Achieve, which is a familiar line item in our LARS appropriation, was decreased about 3.7 million. We do not have the reasoning behind the decrease, but Mickey and her team have looked at that and worked with us, and we've got a good plan moving forward, so that hopefully our districts don't feel the reduction. And then there was additional or new funding for Principal Leadership Development Practicum. That's $1 million in each fiscal year, and that's a program to support and mentor new school principals.
So I will draw attention to the school resource officers. Traditionally, we have received money to reimburse school districts. This year, it includes non-public schools to provide them up to $20,000 each for certified full-time SRO. So we're working through the process of what that would look like, because we typically don't provide funds to non-public schools.
So is this every non-public school, or do they apply, or?
So they would have to have a full-time certified SRO. They have to meet the requirements of the language within House
I
Bill
see.
500. And
They
if
can-
they have a full-time SRO, then they would indicate to us, like a school district does, that they have a full-time SRO and they've paid them, and so they would be eligible for us to reimburse them up to $20,000.
Okay.
Yes, our Office of Continuous Improvement and Support created an intent to participate survey. It was posted on KDE's website and advertised to public schools and non-publics that it was there if they were interested in applying. Yeah. Language.
Okay, yeah, so the General Assembly included some language about the LARS, so the line items that are in in the LARS appropriation. And I don't know if you may have been following, for a while they had a list and they included appropriation for 1 year of the biennium, which caused a lot of concern for people that had those entities and for people within the department that was over those programs. So they settled on, they've eventually restored funding to both years of the biennium, but they settled on some language that they're going to take a look at those line items in a future budget to determine if they want to continue to break them out separately.
Then also, career and technical education, there was an appropriation in the bill, as has been in the past, of the 127-115-9. Language in our Office of Career and Technical Education has been advocating for a change in language around the supplemental funds, that the $70 million has historically been set aside only for the locally operated. And in House Bill 500, that was changed, so that $70 million will be able to support our locally operated as well as our area technology centers. This is probably pretty familiar to most of you. This is what we call our LARS lines. We didn't have anything weird or different this time. Everything stayed pretty consistent. Of course, data seems new. Read to Achieve did take a reduction. But as you can see, as compared to the year we're in and getting ready to close, everything stayed pretty consistent across the board. We did have language. We currently have a contract with We Lead CS, which is computer science. And there was language appropriating $1.5 million to that as one of our LARS lines, and the governor did veto the vendor name. So in conversations internally, we are going to enter into a contract with We Lead CS for fiscal year 27 because we understand that districts have already committed and have students that are interested. So we definitely don't want to leave them with no funding. And then we will look at a competitive solicitation for fiscal year 28 in order to award that $1.5 million. Also, as Matt had mentioned, our SROs went from $18 million to $23 million. Some of that money is coming from a different fund source. Actually, half of it, $11.5 million, is going to be coming from criminal justice. So we are working, and my team with OSBD, to work out how does that work? When do we get it, and how do we get it? But that is a good increase. So that allows us to fully reimburse, I think about 1,080 SROs, where we don't have to start prorating down from the 20,000 reimbursement. So we are in the process now of determining. OCIS has gathered the information, and then my team will do the allocations and get the information out to districts.
So Karen and Matt, let me ask you kind of an overarching question. Given our experience and where we are now, what do you see as our most urgent challenges for the school districts and for managing the agency? I'm trying to understand. I mean, some of this we can manage, and I suspect that there's some things we can't. So I guess I would love to know what you see to be the most urgent challenge that we face.
I guess just from my perspective, Chair, I would say any loss of support that the department can give to our school districts. Of course, transportation comes to mind immediately. Anything in the SEEK appropriation that we see that stays flat is not good for our school districts. We need that to increase.
Because their expenses are not flat.
That's right, absolutely. And when, just like when we go to the store or fill up at the gas pump, things are expensive and they're getting more expensive, and districts are losing that support from the department. Transportation comes to mind, losing the advanced placement money. That was a huge help to our school districts and gave students the ability that may not normally take a test or a class to actually be able to engage. I think it's things like that that we lose.
So it's just, and I think sort of along those lines, that's for districts, for the agency, I think adequately funding KSB and KSD.
Sure.
Because that is, as SEEK transportation is not fully funded and the districts have to pick up that cost, KSD and KSB not being adequately funding to cover their cost means that money that the department could put elsewhere is spent at those schools. I think those are what really come to mind as the big ones.
And then, of course, CATS.
Oh, yeah, CATS is I think.
That
absolutely.
has stayed flat for many, many years. And I believe last year was the first, or maybe it'll be this coming year, will be the first year that we have to stop paying for things for school districts. They can no longer have Infinite Campus online registration because the department is paying for that for them. Now, if they want to have it, they're going to have to pay for it. So the fact that we have, the system that we have in the Commonwealth and the increase to the funding has not happened is pretty phenomenal, actually. But we're starting to see the hit to our school districts. And I think that, it's that COVID dive that we're seeing.
Well, and with that Infinite Campus online registration, now districts are going to have to either pay for it themselves or roll back to paper, which
Right.
increases your
correct.
personnel
That's right.
costs. And that's a big impact for parents.
Absolutely.
How do you run the district? How do you run the district without Infinite Campus anymore? I mean.
Well, so this is just an
pick up the
add-on to
expenses, yeah.
Infinite Campus.
Just the online portion.
Yeah, right. Well, okay.
But it streamlines things. It's cost effective.
Okay.
I think
yeah.
something that's a very telling, while funding has increased, it hasn't kept up with inflation. We can talk about that. Now, if you look at, I think it was the Kentucky Association of School Superintendents over the past few years has put out a graphic that shows the percentage of the overall budget that is towards education. And that's been as high as 44%. And the last, I don't know what this current budget is, but the last one that I saw was 38%. So it's steadily decreased. What percentage of the overall budget is towards education? So if you go from 44, while other things may be increasing, we're not keeping up with the rate just based solely on that number alone. 38% of the budget, the last number I saw was 38% of the budget went towards education, which sounds great, but once upon a time it was at 44%.
And at Cara, it shot way up over 50, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think we're going to be returning to this topic seriously because
Yes.
the impact is really obvious. It looks like we're sailing straight into a tsunami here. I mean, the expenses are not going to go down anytime soon.
Correct.
The number of students and their needs, that's not going down. And so, and there's probably another dynamic that I'm just distracted now by distress.
Well,
I think we got to return
this paints
to
a very
this.
clear picture of sacrifice, of what exactly are districts having to sacrifice to pay for the day-to-day operations. What type of enrichment opportunities, what type of intervention opportunities, what type of transportation, what type of opportunities are we having to, or even teacher pay increase, classified staff pay increase. Districts are having to prioritize. These are the things that at our local level we want to invest in. But on the other hand, what are we missing out? As a matter of fact, you'll see more and more districts. I think Warren County was, if I remember correctly, was like around 85, 86% of their budgets towards salaries. just to try to keep up with those that are around, whereas
It's pretty typical, actually, 85%. Yeah.
85%, well, in Lawrence County, we were in the upper 70s.
That's low. Yeah.
That's low. I couldn't convince my board chair of that.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
great guy. I don't want to say anything bad about Mr. C if you're listening. But with that being said, 78% is low.
Well, and the seek increase probably didn't cover step and rank, so they can't give up raises again.
Yeah.
And,
Draw
and
down
so
general
transportation stayed level, and look how gas prices, fuel prices have gone up.
Right.
And then you got other things that added to the district. It's getting tougher and tougher out
Well,
there.
and think about, I know we're piling on here, but how much time are our students are having to go out and do fundraising to pay for the fuel to go to a academic match or a sporting event? Some districts pay for that. Well, if that's the case, then where does that money come from? Again, it's a prioritization at a district level. Where do you want to be?
Well, there's one more hidden metric that I've not seen the data on, but I know historically what has happened is average class size.
Yeah.
You know, and when you look at academic achievement and performance, class size matters to that. Well, one of the metrics you have to influence when dealing with less money or a greater saturation into that money is you just increase class size.
Yeah.
There's performance issues.
You have 80% budget for salaries. That's where you're gonna take money from. There's not many,
Thin margins.
very thin margins. So you end up losing teachers, staff.
And as Dr. Robinson mentioned earlier, with the increasing and ambiguous cost of diesel in the next few months, districts are sweating, even, making ends meet.
We're gonna see districts have to start going VLI because they can't afford to go get the students.
What's DLI?
VLI,
Oh,
virtual. We'll see districts requesting virtual days just to save fuel costs. Now, that's a prediction on my part, but we're gonna have to be creative somewhere.
Okay. Thank you for this. I know there are other slides, but I mean, we're getting the gist of what we need to kind of focus on, and I'm going to challenge the board to work together as we think about this, and is there a strategic perspective here that will strengthen our advocacy, and what more how do we help the local communities engage with the policymakers to really understand what's going on here? Because we are now at a point that the sacrifices will be painful. So, Matt and Karen, we expect to have further conversation with you on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have one additional review item, and that regards the state assessment evaluation grant program. We have a evaluation update that is really quite important, and so we're happy to have at the table, pardon me, our KDE Associate Commissioner Meredith Brewer and Human Resources Research Organization Chief Scientist Art Thatcher. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having us today to talk about the outcomes from the CGSA grant that the department received in 2022. I do want to note that we did successfully secure a no-cost extension for the grant. So we have one additional year for the grant to conclude its efforts and ensure that all of our implementation plans are in place. But I will let Dr. Thacker walk through the slide deck and an update on the grant. I do want to note that this was an item that the board requested, so hopefully we will address any questions that there are on this topic.
Hi, folks. I'm Art Thacker. I'm a chief scientist at Humro, and for those of you who don't know who Humro is, I forgive you. There's no reason that most people learn about Humro unless they work in educational assessment and measurement. Humro is short for the Human Resources Research Organization. We're celebrating 75 years of being in business this year, and personally celebrating 30 years of working for the Kentucky Department of Education this year. We work for KDE, conducting validity studies, doing psychometric analyses, and essentially just, sort of supporting Kentucky as a research arm for the measurement programs. And which sort of made us a natural, partner for evaluating the CGSA efforts. So that being said, let's jump in. So the CGSA, and I'm going to keep this at a really high level and be pretty brief. It was funded by the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Elementary and Secondary Education, administered by KDE, governed by the Kentucky United We Learn Council, and like I say, we're the evaluator. And there was a 4-year grant period, but extended for 1 year with no additional funding. All CGSA grants have to have a state act as the fiduciary. So, even though there are lots of partners involved, KDE is the sort of the lead on any sort of CGSA grant. All right. The CGSA grant's goals at the outset were to rethink sort of how assessment and accountability could better serve Kentucky students, providing for vibrant learning experiences. They wanted to recognize the efforts and accomplishments of unique Kentucky schools and districts, learn from other innovative competency-based assessment systems, and adopt sort of 4 innovative habits: inclusion, empathy, co-creation, and reciprocity. The sort of big goal was to establish some policy guidance and recommendations for inclusion of local assessments in accountability decisions. Early decisions benefited from having, some districts that were pre-CGSA already, sort of engaged in the kind of work that the CGSA was funding. And that helped sort of provide good examples and gave us sort of good references that we could go to among districts that were sort of already working on this stuff in Kentucky. One of the things that I think is really important is that the Cool Council was, sort of there and had students present, and that those groups really pushed for vibrant learning experiences. It's one of the exciting parts of being the evaluator, was just sort of seeing the multiple levels of people that were advocating for this kind of system. And I'm going to move on. So, all right. I will quickly just say that one of the things that Kentucky did that was sort of unique among the other CGSA groups, other CGSA grant recipients, was Kentucky spent a lot of time sort of looking at systems that were already in place and that worked and that had similarities with what Kentucky was trying to accomplish through this grant program. And Kentucky is also unique in that in the 1990s, Kentucky was the most innovative state in the country and was doing a lot of work to sort of push the boundaries of what we can expect for students and what we want students to be engaged in classrooms. And they, learned a lot of lessons from, that period in time, what worked and what didn't, and brought that experience and expertise into the CGSA grant. So I'd be remiss if I didn't sort of, say something about, Kentucky's history. But the evaluation itself was focused on sort of 4 guiding questions. So, 4 guiding questions. So, is the program on track to accomplish the things that it said it would do? And this is just a pretty basic checklist kind of a level of thinking. So, the grant says Kentucky's going to do X, Y, and Z. Do they indeed do X, Y, and Z? Do they do them on time? Do they do them pretty well? But then the second was, how does co-creation function in student assessment, and can it lead to better outcomes? And so essentially for the evaluation, what we wanted to sort of dig into was whether having multiple voices in the room led to a better product through that process of co-creation. Does having the students have input on the way that they are assessed? Does having teachers and parents and business leaders, do having all those people in the room have an impact on the way that we think about how we assess students? And I will say that it absolutely does. It's really painful at the beginning because it takes a long time to hear everybody's voice and to understand their context. But I think Kentucky is richer for having spent that time. So, are state and local policies sufficiently balanced to allow innovation while maintaining comparability? And initial talks related to this grant were all about sort of redesigning the state level accountability system. And there was a lot of sort of energy about, sort of ways that could happen. That created the moonshot. And as, the goals of the Cool Council interacted with the existing laws and policies that were immutable or that were not going to be mutated anytime soon, they had to make adjustments and sort of fit in what they wanted to do with what they possibly could do and, sort of find the best compromise. I'm often told that the best committee work is the kind but everybody leaves a little bit disappointed. And I think that's probably true for this group. And then finally, were there ways that the program can be improved during the 4-year grant period and beyond? So we acted as sort of an evaluation partner. We provided guidance throughout. We had regular conversations with the powers that be among the partners on the grant and with KDE and with sort of everybody involved. And our goal is always to never put anything in a report that goes to the Fed that anybody is going to be surprised about. So there were times that we provided sort of critical guidance or critical, recommendations. But we provided those early and gave everybody a chance to sort of deal with them before they became a part of a report that had to go to the Fed. And I'm happy to say I think things went pretty smoothly overall, just throughout the evaluation. Sort of an ongoing policy landscape. Like I say, the initial charge was, to redesign the accountability system sort of whole cloth. But the grant language, however, we were fortunate that it was flexible enough to allow for shifts in sort of that mentality as we moved forward. Typically, grant language is very, very specific. And if you change anything, like if you say you're going to do X, but then you run up against a policy or a law that says you can't do it, you have to go back to the Fed and say, we need, a change in scope and, a review and all of that sort of stuff. But I will say that the writing of the grant itself was really clever in that it already had sufficient flexibility to allow those things. And throughout all of the changes, I'll say that there were some key aspects of the program that were maintained. I think there's a strong commitment to co-creation. I think there's a strong commitment to vibrant learning experiences. There's a really strong commitment to district-led quality indicators and valuing each district's uniqueness. And if any of you got to go to any of the sort of touring meetings that KDE held, you'll find that there's a lot of value in community involvement, and the communities really want to be involved. All right. Just a few of the things that we did that I think were high reward evaluation activities. So we attended the Cool Council meetings just to understand how co-creation was working and to gain context about how the council functioned and to experience the inclusivity of the council and sort of the challenges and opportunities that brings. And there were both challenges and opportunities. Anytime you have that diverse a group together, it takes a while for them to get to the point that they're talking in a way that everybody's listening. Attending the town halls, like I say, I attended a town hall meeting, Brittany attended a town hall meeting, and the questions and concerns of the educators and citizens who wanted to talk at the town hall meetings were just astonishing and really great. In an earlier presentation, folks talked about getting beyond the jargon. I'm a measurement guy. I live in the jargon. I love talking about reliability and validity and those kinds of things. But the folks that showed up at those town hall meetings were also talking about validity and reliability and comparability, but in ways that they understood and that were at least as valid as the way that, I tend to talk about them in journal articles. So, But yeah, and then sort of the other big sort of high reward evaluation activity was actually participating in defenses of learning. If you get a chance to do that in your local school district or ask for a volunteer to let you come in and do that, there is no better way to see the impact of what this grant did, you know, in cooperation with some of the other initiatives that Kentucky already had running in parallel. But it was sort of really eye-opening for me. I got to watch and you know, sort of be one of the outside raters for several students. And one of the really, really valuable parts is I was not allowed to stick around where they made sort of the final decision about whether or not the students passed. So I was kicked out into the hallway where I got to talk with kids. And talking with kids about the process of putting together their defenses, the value of what they're going to do with those defenses and the materials that they created after they leave high school is you don't get that unless you talk to kids. So talk to kids. And then finally, we interviewed a lot of educators. We interviewed folks at the district level. We interviewed folks that, you know, had sort of well-established programs that have been doing, you know, sort of portraits for several years. And we interview people that are just getting started, that are just trying to get some buy-in, and that have, you know, maybe 3 or 4 teachers that are on board and gung-ho and moving forward, and they're trying to expand those systems. But I'll say that those are probably the most valuable things that we did as part of the evaluation. Oh, and like I said, this is at a high level, but all the reports are public. You can go read those and get the nitty-gritty details of everything that we did if you want. Just a quick progress report. These are some milestones that were defined early in the project, and you know, finalizing the framework is complete. Documenting the changes between the framework versions is complete. The local accountability design guide and toolkit you heard a bit about today. They've made substantial progress on that. I think that's going to be an ongoing process. We heard a little bit today about, you know, as you get more and more districts involved, you learn things and you have to make adjustments to that kind of documentation. Similar with state communication plans and champion networks, I think that those are going to continue to grow. I think that's going to be an ongoing thing. So I say substantial progress, but I don't think if we ever get to complete, I think we've probably missed a champion or a means of communication out there somewhere. Scoring, evaluation, and rubrics is similar. Districts are creating those on their own, and they're sometimes getting some external review, sometimes getting review from a neighboring district. But you know, the state is not going to provide sort of a review committee to do that, you know, for all of the districts that are doing this. But I think it is really important for the districts that are creating these sort of systems of, you know, local academic indicators, local quality indicators, to have somebody that's external to look at that. And it could just be, you know, teachers and the principal or staff from a neighboring district. But somebody needs to hold them, you know, you said you were going to do X. Did you really do it? Because it's
Hoping
easy.
co-ops will stand in that gap too.
I am hopeful that the co-ops will, you know, help do that. But the co-ops are even right now, they're stretched pretty thin with the number of systems that are in place now. If those systems expand, it's going to be challenging, I think, for the co-ops to be able to do all that. And then sort of finally, some data integration and comparable reporting protocols. I say the word comparable with air quotes because we don't want the districts to be exactly comparable. We want them to be doing their own thing. But when we look at the data, we want to be able to look at the data in ways that let us sort of look across districts and look at, you know, what the state's doing. And that doesn't have to be scores. It could be counts. It could be, you know, any number of other metrics. But I do think we eventually want to get to a point where we can, you know, sort of have a better idea of what's happening throughout the state. And then finally, we made some recommendations in the most recent report. I think building a systematic evaluation framework that has some utility across districts, and that could be through surveys or focus groups or interviews or any number of things, but just some tools to help districts evaluate their own systems or evaluate sort of neighboring systems, that kind of thing, I think is important. Finalized plans for, you know, sort of the evaluation of local accountability systems. So there's a toolkit, but, you know, once local accountability systems start evaluating themselves, how do they report that back up? How do they report that out? All of that kind of stuff is still a little bit up in the air. And then I think we need to collaborate on a bank of local competency-based education systems, including a menu of interim options that districts can sort of look at and, sort of make good decisions about what's already being done in the state and not necessarily have to reinvent the wheel to, sort of satisfy their own local community's desires. And then, sort of finally, I think we need to expand the networks and refine communication strategies. When I say expand networks, one of the things, right now there's sort of a Google Drive that people work on, but ultimately what we would love to see is, here are some shining examples. These are available for the public, and they are on an accessible place that all Kentucky educators can sort of get to. And then here is a sandbox where you're okay to experiment and try things out, and nobody's going to if things aren't perfect in that sandbox. And I think you need sort of both of those things to move that process forward quickly. And then finally, Humro is going to continue for the next year, and we're very proud to be included in the next application for the following CGSA grant. And with that, I will say thank you and ask if anybody has any questions.
Well, we certainly thank you for that concise and really substantive report, and for helping us think forward, document what we've done, what we're learning, and what the implications are for our work going forward. Other comments, questions? I really appreciate this and look forward to getting our continued relationship, Ms. Thatcher, as we include you in our next grant application. I did take note, we should seek funding from other sources. So I'm sure we're thinking of what those sources might be, and thank you.
You've been such a good partner.
Oh, well, good. I'm really happy to hear that. I love working for Kentucky. I've been working for Kentucky for 30
And Cool has
years.
the best snacks.
Well,
So,
absolutely. Best snacks.
Well, Sonny does eat well, I will say.
I used to tell people my kids went to school here, so I had a vested interest in doing a good
That's
job
right,
in
that's
Kentucky. But they have moved on. I'm too old now. So,
Thanks a lot.
But thank you very much.
Okay. Board members, we're now at a poignant moment, one where we acknowledge the great good fortune we have had to work with our non-voting teacher and student board member. And we now invite them to share their reflections with us. Who's going to go first?
I don't
Did
care.
you guys talk about this?
Wait, winner or
Winner.
winner goes first?
Yeah.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Okay, you go first. I'm horrible at this.
I love it.
Well, I'd just like to start by saying thank you to you guys, not only for supporting this position in the first place. I think the fact that you guys have a student non-voting member in the first place shows how much you value student input, and I really appreciate that. But second, I'd like to thank you for being understanding of me. I think it's not a secret that my experience on this board is a little bit different from everybody else's because I am 17 and this is the first board that I've served on, and I'm not as accustomed to the professional environment as you guys are. But I think that you guys have really gone out of your way to help me feel comfortable, and you've encouraged me to get out there and express myself. A few months ago, Dr. Robinson personally invited me to get on a Zoom call with her, and she told me that she wanted me to speak to you guys about something that I'm passionate about. And if she hadn't have done that, then I probably wouldn't have had the confidence to come to you guys during a board meeting and tell you that I do care deeply about civic understanding, you know? And that was hard for me to do, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without your encouragement. So I really appreciate that. You guys are intimidating because You're intimidating because I respect you so much, and you're such not you. I'm just no worries. I'm just kidding. But you're intimidating because I respect you so much, and you're such incredible people. What you do, your passions, you're so driven and you're so well spoken, and the fact that you are so driven because you're passionate about students, I think that shows that you're incredible. And not only do I see you guys as role models because of that, but on behalf of all students of Kentucky, we appreciate that you've put so much into us. If I could say one thing that I regret, it's just that I feel like I haven't had enough time. I feel honestly like I'm just getting comfortable, and I don't know if I've done everything that I could have to express everything that I needed to, but I think I'm comforted by the fact that the confidence that I've built this year and the experiences that I've gained on this board, I'll be able to apply to all of my future endeavors, whatever they may be. I know a lot of you guys have asked me what I'm doing, and I've kind of been like, oh, I don't know, I might go to college, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But I'm comforted by the fact that I'll be able to apply those wherever I go. And B, I'm comforted by the fact that I know that you guys will provide the encouraging and optimistic attitude that you guys had towards me, towards the young man that's taking my place. So I'd just like to end by encouraging you guys to keep being encouraging towards future students and keep that attitude, because it's been very positively impactful for me, and thank you.
Yay, Harper.
And Harper, I'm going to say, don't worry, we have not forgotten the civic engagement, the civic education, and how we support more vibrant learning experience for students in that regard. You put a very important issue on the table, and it hasn't fallen off. And thank you for that. That is a service in and of itself. And so please, add it to the resume. It's well earned.
Thank you.
Alfonso.
Well,
Tough act to follow, huh?
I was thinking, Madam Chair.
I want to echo the sentiments of Harper, because for me, and I'm reading from something that I have written, because if not, I'm going to end up talking and talking and talking. No, we don't want that. But I'm very grateful for what has been one of the most meaningful experiences of my professional career. I have been provided opportunities to learn, to contribute to important conversations about the future of education in the Commonwealth, build meaningful relationships with dedicated leaders like you all from across the state who share a deep commitment to Kentucky's students. When I applied for this position, I made a promise to my students, but also to every teacher that I knew, that I would bring their voices to the table. And I have worked really hard to ensure that the classroom realities remain part of every conversation and decision. Whether policy, accountability, assessment, educator workforce challenges, student opportunities, I tried to make a conscious effort to listen to teachers, families, students, and colleagues, and to ensure that their experiences inform my contributions to this. And I view my role as a bridge between educators and policymakers, helping connect statewide decisions to their impact in classrooms. One of the most rewarding aspects of this year has been the relationships I have developed. I have had the privilege of serving alongside you all, whose expertise, dedication, and genuine care for students have inspired me. I am also grateful for the relationships I have strengthened with colleagues from the Kentucky Department of Education, staff, educators, school leaders. These connections deepen my understanding of the opportunities and challenges facing Kentucky's schools and reinforce my belief that collaboration is essential for meaningful progress. I also entered this role with a commitment to equity, inclusion, and innovation. As a Hispanic multilingual educator, I understood the importance of bringing perspectives that have not always been represented in leadership spaces. Kentucky has more than 65 Hispanic students, more than 65,000 Hispanic students, 50,000 plus multilingual learners, and growing community of Hispanic educators who deserve to see themselves reflected in us. And I hope that they have been able to elevate their voices and experiences. As a teacher, as a world language teacher, I had tried to advocate for the value of multilingualism and global competence to the expense of your patience with all of my questions. And as the husband of an early childhood and kindergarten teacher and two amazing neurodivergent kids, I have brought an appreciation for the critical importance of early learning. This year has reinforced my belief that innovation and equity are not competing priorities. They are deeply interconnected. Thank you, Sarah Snipes. Creating vibrant learning experiences, supporting educators, embracing new approaches to teaching and learning. I was encouraged by you all because of your commitment to these principles. I'm proud to contribute to discussions that kept the students at the center of our work. Sorry, I'm nervous. Perhaps my greatest takeaway from this experience is a renewed sense of optimism, despite everything that is happening in this state and the challenges that we are facing in public education. So great is the talent and dedication and the passion of the people working to address them, and you should include yourselves in this. Across Kentucky, I have seen educators, administrators, families, policymakers, community partners, and students like Harper who share belief in the potential of our students. And that collective commitment gives me confidence in the future of our education in our state. So as I finish, I want to say, not just to the board, but also to the public, thank you for the trust placed in me. Thank you for your patience with my 1,000 questions every meeting, for my continued bringing up to the conversations multilingualism and English language learners, and for every opportunity to contribute to work that mattered deeply. My term may be ending, and I'm sad because it was right around March and April when I got the hang out of this. But my commitment to Kentucky's students, educators, and schools remains unchanged, and I will continue to advocate for equity, inclusion, innovation, and educational excellence, carrying forward the lessons and the relationships that this extraordinary year and that you all, including our members who retired, have provided me all. So thank you so much. It has been an honor to serve, and see you in the classrooms.
Yeah, Alfonso.
Bravo. So Alfonso, be sure to keep up with us, and I want to thank you for those questions. You did not test our patience. You tested our diligence and our capacity to keep everybody in the conversation and at the table through those questions. So we consider them an asset, and we are appreciative that you brought those questions and your perspective to the benefit of all. So appreciate it, and we certainly wish you Godspeed, and we expect to see more of you.
Mm-hmm. So to both Harper and Alfonso, thank you both. We loved you from the first day we met you, but you guys have left your mark on this board because of the contributions that you made and for your willingness to jump in with both feet and to do this work. So we are a better board because you two have been a part of us, and we will keep the lights on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't feel like saying goodbye, so I'm not going. We now have the opportunity to celebrate further. We invite the commissioner to, and Jennifer Ginn, the director of the Division of Resource Management, Angela Smith, to join us to present the Teresa Perry Compassion Award.
Well, this is about the only thing that's going to follow up that. Always good to recognize people. I drug Angela up here with me. This is a joint program in between our offices, so we have communicated a lot over the past month about this. To give you a little bit of a background, the award's given in honor of Teresa Perry. Quite a few of us that remember her. She served as an executive secretary to the Commissioner of Education and worked for the state for more than 33 years. She was noted for providing outstanding customer service to those inside and outside the agency, always exhibiting compassion and providing positive inspiration for others. The award is given annually in June to a KDE employee who exhibits characteristics and professionalism Perry showed every day. The first 5 recipients were Janice Harris, 2021, Monica Raines, 2022, VM Bray Nicholson, 2023, Crystal Soul, 2024, and last year, Chris Williams, who I believe had to actually accept it on a Teams call. Although Teresa would say not to worry about recognizing her, she'd be so happy that we have used her name for an award that honors the hard work and compassion that so many at KDE show on a daily basis. And with that, we go to the commissioner.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And it is a pleasure to recognize our KBE employees for hard work and compassion, especially when you have employees such as this year's recipient who is deserving of this honor. The 2026 Teresa Perry Compassion Award recipient has been employed at KDE for more than 7 years. He was appointed Education Program Manager of KDE's Academic Core Branch in January 2019. His nominators emphasized his commitment to KDE staff and educators, as well as his leadership, professionalism, and ability to make his team feel seen. One nominator wrote about him, Thomas Klaus, is more than our office program manager. He's our friend and champion of connection. Whether supporting colleagues in times of need or helping navigate KDE expectations, Thomas leads with integrity, kindness, and compassion. A second nominator said he was approachable and caring. The nominator wrote, I can go to Thomas with any question, and I will be met by his thoughtfulness and commitment to helping me figure it out. Thomas is also wonderful out in the field where educators find him approachable, professional, and warm. While Thomas is certainly productive and proficient at his job, the quality we love most about him is his heart for others. He is a caring listener and makes his team feel seen and valued. His sincerity is one of a kind, and we all feel grateful to be working alongside him. I'm honored to be able to recognize Thomas today. His nominators showed how dedicated he is to moving education forward in Kentucky, and always with such a positive attitude. Thomas is all in when it comes to his commitment to assisting others and providing excellent service. We also have Teresa's sister, Drew Hawkins, who works in the Office of Finance and Operations, who will be here to help us in this presentation. So, Chair Robinson, if you would, if we could have Thomas and others come over, we'd like to have a picture and present with the award.
Yay, Thomas. speech.
Well, I am very grateful to work with and have been blessed to work with the people that I had the opportunity to meet. And like I heard the guy, they're really the ones who see and push the work forward. I just try to support them where I can. So very shocked by this. So where are my emotions on my face? But very shocked when I got to tap on my shoulder and I turned around and see my son Jacob there.
Oh.
And my wife. So just appreciate everybody.
Yay.
Lovely. Oh. We now turn to our final item on today's agenda, the presentation of the 2026 Karam Award for Excellence in Education Policy. Invite Commissioner Fletcher to join me in recognizing this year's recipient.
Well, this one may be a little bit difficult for the commissioners, so please bear with me. The David Karam Award for Excellence in Education Policy is named for a former Kentucky Board of Education member, David Karam, and recognizes a Kentucky policymaker, education leader, or citizen who has made notable contributions to the improvement of Kentucky's public education system. Karam served on the KBE from 2009 through 2016, and then again from 2019 in December to April 2020. He served for 33 years in the Kentucky State Senate and as a chairman of the Senate Education Committee. While in the General Assembly, Karam championed the passage of the Kentucky Education Reform Act and led the efforts for the 4% school tax levy by school districts. Today, on behalf of the Kentucky Board of Education, I am honored to present the David Karam Award for Excellence in Education Policy to the late Dr. Tom Shelton for his lifelong work of advocating policy changes to improve Kentucky students' education. According to his nominators, Tom was more than a friend and colleague. He was a brother. We are honored to nominate Dr. Tom Shelton for the 2026 David Karam Award for Excellence in Education Policy. No one is more deserving. Tom passed away unexpectedly in his sleep on February 15th. Dr. Shelton devoted his life to public education. He was an award-winning superintendent of Davis County Schools and Fayette County Schools, former executive director of the Kentucky Association of Superintendents, and executive secretary of the Council for Better Education, Incorporated, representing Kentucky's public school districts to ensure constitutional commitments to students. And he never remained quiet. Tom's greatest strength was his passion for doing what was right for public schools. He drafted policies, took bold stances, and advocated for marginalized groups. He was a leading expert on public school finances. I could attest for that on several occasions in Kentucky, and he trained and coached many former and current district administrators in school finance and school law. Tom also worked tirelessly with legislators over the years to help them understand not only Kentucky school finance issues, but also to work with them to create solutions that would lead to policy changes. With a brilliant mind for policy, procedure, and finance, he will be remembered most for his tenacity in securing adequate, equitable funding for Kentucky schools. Fittingly, his final career move was accepting the CEO role at United Way of the Bluegrass last October, where he was proud to once again work with others to lend a voice to those in need. We invited his daughters, Abby Shelton Sizemore and Audrey Shelton, to share thoughts. And they wrote, "Being the superintendent's kids through middle and high school was unique. Despite high work demands, we were always Dad's priority. Lunch in the cafeteria, classroom check-ins, sideline visits at football games, or wading through floodwaters after a tornado in a suit to ensure we were safe before checking schools. His love was clear. He cared deeply about every child's right to education, hot meals, safe rides, and loving teachers. Thousands benefit from his career. We feel lucky to have been loved by him. Former Fayette County student Andrew Brennan from the Tom Squad, which was the high school advisory group, shared this upon his passing. We met in 2014 as a senior discussing the district's budget shortfall. Tom trusted youth to lead. His passing is a gut punch. He was an unrelenting force improving Kentucky schools, the happy warrior. His devotion to his wife and friends marked him as a true leader, man, and Kentuckian. He will be missed, but his legacy endures. While Dr. Shelton is no longer with us to accept this award, his legacy lives on through his work and through those he loved. We are honored that Tom's nominators, along with Tom's daughters, Abby and Audrey, are able to be with us today to accept the David Karam Award for Excellence in Education Policy for Tom Shelton. I invite you all to come forward to accept this award and to share a few remarks. We'll start at the table for a few remarks and we'll
We weren't really prepared to talk, and I don't know that we can, but we're very grateful. If Stu wants to talk.
Let's do talk.
I wasn't prepared either. And this is just so hard. I was blessed to work with Tom since 1995. I hired him when I was superintendent in Davis County and got to watch him over the years. And the thing about Tom was that if something wasn't right, he was going to stand up and for what was right. And even when it was harmful to him personally, it didn't matter. If it was right for our kids, Tom would stand up. And just, his most recent stance on the constitutional amendment on the voucher stuff, he led that effort against that vote and for that vote against the voucher system and took a lot of shots for it. But it was the right thing to do for our kids, and that was Tom. And it was just a man of total integrity to do what was right. And some of you worked with him, and but it was truly a blessing to work with Tom over the years and watch the influence that he had, particularly with CBE and as executive director with KASS going to the legislature. And it was tough to do it. It was really tough to do it. But he wasn't afraid, and he stood up and did what was right for our kids. So, Commissioner, Madam Chair, board members, thank you for recognizing Tom.
Before I turn this back over to our board chair, Superintendent Silverman, I don't know if you remember or not, but once upon a time, there was a gentleman I use that term loosely, that came to your office with several others in his class on school finance.
Mm-hmm.
And you just laid out a full spreadsheet and said, what questions do you have? and it was on school finance, and I was one of those students that was in your office once upon a time, many, many years ago. And I want to say thank you. It made an impression on me that you were just so open, but I also know that Tom respected you so much, of course, like a brother. And Tom and I agreed on most things, but I tell you what, it was such a joy to be able to sit down and talk to him personally, one-on-one, to ask questions. And if I ever had a question on finance, Tom Shelton was call number one. It was call number one. And then call number two was Matt Robbins, who was also trained a lot by Tom Shelton. So again, a lot of respect for Tom and for you, sir. Just want you to know that.
Well, we've had the great good fortune to celebrate treasures that have made just such a contribution to education, our state, and thereby our global community even. And I want to thank the board for an incredibly productive and substantive meeting. And I now will ask you for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Aha, is there a second? Second. I'll put the question. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you so much for being with us.